Yes, indeedy, it is The Drive, but no Brian Wilson. Sadly, for you Brian Wilson lovers, it is I, Matt Murphy. It's 3:06 and a good afternoon. Happy December 26th, the day after the big day. The big day for the big man in the jolly red suit. Coming down the chimney, and hopefully you got all the Christmas goodies that you asked for. I will attempt to give you 4 hours of Christmas goodness, a radio present to you, if you will, called The Drive with no Brian Wilson. Matt Murphy in for Brian today and all week. Proud to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. As always, the Super Talk phone lines are up and running. The Super Text line is up and running as well. Once again, 615-737-9986. I give those numbers often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. I will admit to you up front, I'm surviving on less sleep than normal in as much as I had Red Eye Radio overnight. I was proud to be a part of Red Eye Radio, a nationwide broadcast heard right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy to talk to the entire country, nay, the entire world on that platform. I'll be back there tonight starting at midnight. The hardest part of Red Eye Radio, for those who do not listen, it's a great show. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley do a fabulous job, and it is a part of, and one of the things we're proud of on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, this is a relative rarity. Let me peel back the curtain. By the way, before I peel back the curtain, let me give you some of the pleasantries. There's obviously there's Mac Morey back in the newsroom. He's gathering headlines as we speak. Actually, no, he's making excuses for the Chiefs as we speak, honestly. And then there's Chris Weber. What's going on, Weber?
What's happening?
How's it going?
It's okay for a day after Christmas.
Have you taken any time off? Did you take any time last week off? Or
I was off.
Day here and there? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I was off yesterday, obviously.
For the holiday, sure.
Yeah. I'll be off this coming Friday as well.
Well, there you go. Well, spend some time with family. Recharge those batteries.
Yeah. I've three days straight, and I'm kind of out of it today. Just 3 days at home doing nothing but things you probably shouldn't be doing.
So much eating. Oh, my goodness. Not even, for me, not even that much drinking this year. Just so much eating.
A lot of eating for me.
A lot of eating. Hey, Maury, join the party.
Hey,
how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing great.
I figured you were gathering headlines or making excuses for certain things that we will not discuss this afternoon on the show. Until I plan on, in honor of Brian Wilson, the absent Brian Wilson, we will have Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports.
Oh, yes. I love it.
I hope Brian doesn't mind. I mean, it's his show after all, and he is a central cog in this segment. But I will try to do my best. And the theme of Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports is, go ahead, Mac. Make excuse. Tell me what happened. That's it. That's the whole thing. I know. What am I supposed to do?
I'm just
I don't want to.
I'm just sad. It's going to be a disappointing segment if it's like that. But it's okay. I'll make it fun and exciting.
Well, as I said, and Weber, you can identify with this as a Georgia Bulldog fan. As I said after the SEC championship game, after Georgia's streak of 30 consecutive wins was broken by the University of Alabama, who now have become like our. I don't know. I don't know of another team in the SEC that I dislike more because they win so much and they beat us. Right. I mean. The University of Georgia is, I think the statistic is we're 42-3.
Yeah, that's it.
And 2 of those losses against Alabama.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that we love to win so much is the same reason that we hate to lose so much.
Oh, it's the worst.
The reason that our emotions reach that zenith when we achieve victory, our team marches to victory, that's the same thing that causes the pain.
That's true. Yeah.
So I guess without the yin, you can't have the yang. They say.
So.
And so right now you're dealing with, I don't know, what are you dealing with, the yin or the yang?
This is the yang.
The ding or the dong. A little bit of both. Anyway. For those who do not know, Mac Maury's team is the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost last night.
Bad.
To the Raiders. Yuck. Well,
their quarterback did not complete a pass after the first quarter. They won the game.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm not pulling a hand. I know that Chris.
No, it's fine.
How happy were you?
Oh my gosh.
He already talked about that earlier.
Did he really?
Yeah, I was like, dude, I was kind of selfishly I was kind of happy just because, Hand was going to just murder me again, for another Chiefs lawn.
Yeah. I bet I could find a nice Raiders song.
Please, no.
Go, Pat, go, or whatever it is. So Chris Hand, your host from 9 until noon, gives you incessant grief.
Of course.
Are we getting to a point where there might be talk of a Taylor Swift?
People are already trying that, yes.
The Taylor Swift
people are already
curse.
trying that. Yeah, it's trash.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I hadn't thought about that.
It's trash.
It's garbage.
It's
nothing to it.
No, the loss yesterday was garbage. I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help excuse this in a way that doesn't point fingers at Patrick Mahomes for throwing a pick six.
There's an easy solution, like kicking Taylor out of the stands.
And seeing what happens, right?
Let's give it a shot. Anything at this point.
Kick her butt out of the stadium, see what happens.
Hey, maybe they need me in the stands. I'll be in the stands this weekend, so maybe that's what we need. Let's go.
Who you taking on?
Bengals. Cincinnati.
2 more games?
Yep, 2 more games.
Bengals and whom?
Chargers.
A little worried about, are we worried about playoffs? You're in the playoffs,
in the
right?
playoffs, pretty much. We got to win one of these next 2, which isn't guaranteed anymore. But no, I mean, first round exit is what I'm kind of just looking at right now. Yeah.
Well, you can't win them all.
Wow.
You can't
Nice to have a positive outlook there.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah. Merry Christmas, guys.
And now our and just while we're on the subject of football, and we'll recircle around to it.
My fault, guys.
Well, no, it's mine. It's all on me. I just see that the FSU, the back.
Oh yeah.
And so it I hate this.
$130 million or something. Yeah. Big lawsuit.
The second string quarterback at FSU he's transferred out.
Yep.
He's not playing in the Orange Bowl.
Right.
So it leaves us with a situation where if we beat FSU 56-0, it doesn't count. Yeah. And if we somehow
this is a lose-lose.
It's the worst loss in the history of football.
Oh, I hate
it's
that
just
position.
a no-win.
Yeah.
It's a no-win deal.
That stinks.
But, let's go win 56-0.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it that way.
I'd feel better about that.
At least.
Of the 2 options, yeah.
At least. See, we get that running back from Florida. You see that?
Not too bad.
Trevor Etienne.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Good lineage. Good. Our main. Everything about that. I love everything. We needed a running back. We got a running back. He's a good one. We got a good one. We got him from Florida. He's got a great lineage. What is it? Where's his older brother playing?
Yeah, Jacksonville. Travis Etienne. Yeah,
there we go.
Beast.
Yeah. All right. Lots to get into on this post-Christmas edition. I hope that you got everything you wanted. I'm going to play at some point during these proceedings. I want to play a version of Dirty Santa. I hope that you all know the game, Dirty Santa. I tried to do this last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it didn't work. I don't think anybody was ready for it. But I'm going to play this game today. Maybe the rules are a little too convoluted, but I think that you listeners of Super Talk 99.7 WTN, I think you can do this. And I'm going to go ahead and crank up my version of Dirty Santa because there's a lot of early and late Christmas presents coming in from a political variety. And so in the spirit of this happy late Christmas show, I want to know what I would need to bring to a party for you to take my Dirty Santa gift. Now, if you don't know what Dirty Santa is, never you fear. I'll feed you baby birds. So in Dirty Santa, and this is a version of it, I think we'll call it, I don't know, Dirty Murphy? Maybe not. Man, no, that's bad. No, that's no good. Murphy Santa. We'll go Murphy Santa instead of Dirty Murphy. I think Murphy Santa is better, right?
Dirty Murphy.
Let's go Dirty Murphy. Okay.
I don't know. I could go in many different directions.
Don't. For the love, do not ask Dan Mandis what a Dirty Murphy is.
I don't want to know. Why does he know? No, never mind.
It's one of those stories that if you know, you know. I think it's one of those. Mandis has declared that we never are to bring that up on.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Nashville's Morning News again. Anyway, Dirty Santa. So you're at a party, you're at a gathering, and if you're playing Dirty Santa at the party, everybody brings a present, and you are to wrap it in a nondescript fashion so no one knows which present you brought, and you put it on a table. Let's say it's a coffee table or a dining room table, and everyone gathers around, and if there's 10 people at the event, you take 10 numbers, you put them in a hat, everybody draws one, and number 1 goes first and on down the line to number 10. You want to be number 10 in Dirty Santa. So and I know that there are variations of Dirty Santa, so I don't want to get into the variants, but number 1 picks a gift, opens the gift. Number 2 has a decision to make. Number 2 can either pick a gift from the table or they can steal, here's the Dirty Santa part, they can steal the gift from guest number 1. And on down the line you go. until you're in the catbird seat if you got the number 10 spot, because you get to look at all the gifts that everyone's already opened, and you get to decide whether to open the gift on the table or to take a gift that someone else already has. And I think a gift can only be swapped twice to prevent one gift dominating the Dirty Santa game, whatever. So in our variation of this game, on this day after Christmas, I'm imploring you to participate either on the super text lines or on the phone line, 615-737-9986. What would I need to bring for you to steal my gift to our Dirty Santa game? It can be political. It can be a Donald Trump victory in 2024. It can be a Hunter Biden conviction in 2024. It can be something as simple as peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Whatever it is, it can be a sports-related thing. It can be a victory for Mac Morey's beloved Kansas City Chiefs. Matt Murphy's bringing a gift to Dirty Santa. Somebody opens it. What does it need to be for you to steal that gift? Make sense to you? Let's do this. 615-737-9986 if you have a thought. Now, I have some thoughts on what's going on over in Israel with Israel versus Hamas. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about what I believe should be the number one topic of conversation on everyone's lips in 2024. It should be the lead story on every nightly newscast for the foreseeable future, because it is a territorial existential threat to the United States of America. It is the greatest existential threat to the United States of America outside of our $34 trillion in debt. And we'll discuss today. We'll also talk about the Tesla factory worker that was attacked. Did you see this? This just happened today. The headline is probably a lot more scary than the actual contents of the story, but I'll give you the headline in just a moment. It involves a robot attacking a human being in a Tesla factory. Plus, we'll play that Dirty Santa. 615-737. What gift do you want to see Matt Murphy holding at Dirty Santa that you're going to steal at the Dirty Santa game? Is it Donald Trump exoneration in Colorado? That was a gift, by the way, under the tree from the Colorado Supreme Court. More on that coming up as well. We've got just a tremendous amount of topics to get into in a short amount of time to do it. Plus, coming up at 4:05 this afternoon, our one and only guest for today, Congressman Tim Burchett, will join the show on The Drive. Congressman Burchett, I admit that I've not kept up with the Jeffrey Epstein latest, and Congressman Burchett has. And he was pretty plain spoken when he said that the reason that this list is being withheld in Congress is because a lot of Congress people have been blackmailed due to their own sexual dalliances in that capital city. We'll have more from Congressman Burchett on that front at 4:05 this afternoon. In the meantime, 615-737-9986. It's the day after the day that was, Christmas 2023, 3/19. Super Talk 99.7 WTN and The Drive.
President Biden meeting with Mexico's president to get things straightened out at the border tomorrow. Holiday return season has begun, and a Tennessee high schooler dies over Christmas weekend. Those stories 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I don't mean to laugh at your news tease. But, President Biden somebody said, hey, we got an issue on the, maybe I should call a Mexican president, Hey.
What do you think of that, Jack?
Hey, amigo. Southern border. Got problems. We gotta fix that. And they go together and close the gate, lock it. And then
it's fixed.
Problem solved, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Yeah, more to come. The solution to the southern border on the way at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It was just kind of the way. Look, I get it. They're putting lipstick on that pig. They continue to try to put lipstick on that pig. And there's a way that they're doing this that I want to discuss when it comes to the southern border. And we'll deal with that probably in the 5 o'clock hour. They are the leftists that are controlling Joe Biden and the Biden administration. And I don't know if Karine Jean-Pierre is part of that. She seems too, frankly, ignorant to be a part of the decision-making process. She's just a voice, a mouthpiece, a check mark in a diversity box. But they are intentionally conflating immigration policy and border security. Immigration policy and border security, while connected, obviously, due to the nature of both subjects, are not interchangeable. They are two different things. Securing the border and altering immigration policy are two different things. Yet every time they're asked about border security, they answer about immigration policy. This is intentional. They're gaslighting you into believing they're actually doing something when they're not. All right, more on Dirty Santa. A lot of you have responded on the super text line, and several of you have responded on the phone line, 615-737-9986. So we're all at a party together. We're playing Dirty Santa. Matt Murphy has brought a gift. Matt Murphy, you select my gift, or someone selects my gift, and it is opened. That gift goes on the table. What does that gift need to be for you to say, I don't care what else is here, I don't care what else is going on, I'm walking out of this house with that gift. I am stealing that gift if it's the last thing I do. David has an idea in Springfield. David, thanks for joining the drive with no Brian Wilson, Matt Murphy, and for Brian. How are you, David?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
I think my gift would have to be a Donald Trump chia pet.
Oh, that's pretty good. With the, how would you get the, you'd have to, they can do some pretty special things with chia pets. But you would have to get the hair to grow in a very particular sideways direction,
Yeah, but it would be worth it.
You ever had a chia pet, David?
No, I haven't, but my dad did.
Did he? David,
Yes,
you ever read stories about gladiators?
Yeah.
That's David. That works for everyone that's seen the movie. for people who have not seen the movie, I started to use it. Joey, you ever have a dog jump on your leg, rub up and down? Thank you, David, for the call. Donald Trump chia pet. I think those exist. I'd be disappointed if those do not exist. Dirty Santa, autographed photo of or from Dolly Parton, and it says, I love Matt Murphy. You would never get out of the house with that Dirty Santa gift. Mike H. says he wants a Georgia loss to LSU, or FSU. FSU. Making the committee look even worse than they already look. That is from Mike. Mike, I don't know if you're an FSU fan or not. I think FSU had a great football team, and I think FSU got hosed. FSU did everything FSU was supposed to do, but FSU's big-time star quarterback went down with an injury, which dramatically affected the outcome of the college football playoffs. I'm not a football show, and I'm not a football expert, but I thought that FSU kind of got the host job as well, but the circumstances were a perfect storm to get them the host job. I would love to gift all of the hostages returned from Hamas to their families. That is an incredible gift. And once again, I said you could go fun and funny and frivolous, or you can go serious. That is an absolutely great gift. Steve says, how about a dinner date with Dolly? See, people are just trying to hurt me. I'm bringing the gift, and they're going to steal the gift from me, and people want to hurt me as a gift to themselves, I guess. Joey, you ever seen a grown man naked? Writes Andy. Once again, if you know, you know. I don't know what to tell you. That's a dated reference lost on younger listeners. I'm surprised you know, Weber.
Oh, that's one of my all-time favorites.
My goodness. Stewardess, I can help. I speak jive. Things you could not get away with in modern America.
What did she say at the end of it? She says something about, sucker don't want no help.
Sucker don't want no help. Sucker don't get no help. Hey, I don't need you talking for mama. I dig her rap. That's so good. There's a lot of favorite scenes in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the scene where the Leslie Nielsen is describing what's going to happen to people that ate the fish. And I forget the actor's name, but he's the pilot, the captain of the plane.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he looks down and there's the bones of the fish. And as he's describing what's going to happen to the people, it all starts happening to him. He starts
cold
sweating.
sweats. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor if you've never seen Airplane. Go watch Airplane, and you'll understand why I just said the line, have you ever seen a grown man naked? It is 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 52 degrees in Nashville. Got a weather forecast. Traffic report headed your way 5 minutes. Biden administration officials will meet with Mexico's president tomorrow and urge that nation to work harder at stopping the surge of migrants at the U.S. southern border. Andy Field on the expectations of that meeting.
Mexico's president admitting there's a price tag for keeping more migrants from crossing from Mexico to the U.S. President Obrador saying he wants the U.S. to send more development aid to migrants' home countries, giving them an incentive to stay where they are rather than making the dangerous trip through Mexico to the U.S. Mexico also wants the Biden administration to reduce sanctions against Cuba and Venezuela to make living conditions better in those nations.
And in just 5 days last week, Border Patrol processed nearly 50,000 migrants who entered the U.S. illegally, with daily apprehensions surpassing 10,000 thrice, up from 6,400 average last month. And many happy returns to all those recipients out there who are waiting to return those unwanted gifts. But when you go to the counter or send back your online purchase product, you might find it a little more challenging to get money back. Samantha Gordon, deals editor at Consumer Reports, advises everyone to expect stricter return policies. Here's some of her do's and don'ts.
Do not remove any tags. Try to not take things out of the original packaging. Make sure you keep those receipts. If you have a gift receipt, generally stores will give you store credit. Reach out to customer service, and they may be able to take you on a case-by-case basis.
And Gordon adds that many electronics and big box stores offer the shortest return window. And here in Tennessee, Fox 17 reporting that a freshman wrestler at Dixon County High School died in an accident while on a team trip to Florida. Jalen Harper was on his way to Orlando with the team when this happened. He was also on the football team. The school will have counselors on hand for students and teachers when classes resume after winter break. And a memorial fund is in the process of being set up by Dixon County High School. That is the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
Just hang loose, blood. She gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama raised no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack. Chump don't wanna help, chump don't get the help.
Say can't hang, say 7-Up.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains.
I love you, Chris Webber. I had it queued up, too. I was ready to go, but you beat me to it. Chump to want to help, chump to get to help.
June Claver speaking jive. Oh, that's too good.
Right now in the newsroom, Mac Moore's going, what are they talking about? What are they? You were negative a lot. Don't worry about it. 1980s airplane. Have you watched Dr. Seuss?
No, not Dr.
Stop!
No, that's not what you want me to watch.
The
Grinch. I've not watched it yet. No, I know you're going to get on me. I knew it. I'm sorry. I'm going to.
You're going through a period of mourning.
Exactly.
I understand.
I'm in despair.
Yeah, chump to want to help, chump to get to help. That's what I say. There you go. There's a little jive from Airplane. 337, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, discussing what would I bring to a Dirty Santa that you just couldn't resist? What is the one thing that you say, I have to have? Steve has offered up a couple of suggestions, like a Cocker Spaniel puppy, a winning Powerball ticket. How about an extra large big green egg? I don't think that I could tote an extra large big green egg into a Dirty Santa, but, you do you. It's your fantasy. How about a dinner date with Dolly? Jason writes in and says, will Corn Pop be making the trip to the Mexico border? Talking about Joe Biden discussing the issues along the southern border with the Mexican president a little too late. And 9859, or 9849, I should say, writes in and tells us that it is Peter Graves that was the captain of the plane in Airplane. Very good. So let's talk a little about the southern border. And you're welcome to bring in your Dirty Santa gifts, and I'll go over them as they come in. I know that we got a lot of them on the super text line. The issue involving the southern border should be the number one news story on every nightly newscast, in my opinion, for the foreseeable future. Now, one could make an argument to me that just as important is the escalation during the Christmas holiday season of the Israeli-Hamas conflict, an escalation that you and I will discuss on the show today, on the drive today. But I would suggest to you that far more important to the future of the United States of America right now is the existential threat that exists at our southern border. It is not overstating the case to explain that without border security, without a government that values border security, the United States of America no longer has any political sovereignty. And what the Biden administration is attempting to sell to the American people is that they can't do anything about people coming into our country illegally. Because, Republicans. That's their argument, folks. It's not my argument. That's the totality of their argument regarding what's going on the southern border. They want you to look the other way. They want you to pretend as if nothing is happening. They want the mainstream media to continue to ignore it. And sadly, outside of Newsmax, News Nation to a certain degree from what I've seen, and Fox News, and our medium here in talk radio, they are. And a lot of Americans are getting their news from, unfortunately, ABC, CBS, NBC. Sadly, they go to web locations that don't present the full story or the full news regarding the southern border and what's going on there. And a lot of Americans don't understand the totality of the dynamics that exist at the southern border that are creating I believe it to be an existential threat to the United States of America. We will cease to be the America that you and I know and love if we continue to allow hundreds of thousands of individuals to flood across the southern border unabated, without any regard for their legal status, without any regard for what they are trying to do here. And while I am certain, as I say every time this subject comes up, while I am certain that there are many individuals that simply want to make a better life for themselves, and I feel for those folks. I do. I understand that it's a laborious process to legally enter the United States of America. I understand that we are a bastion of hope and liberty and freedom around the globe. I understand that we are a shining city on a hill. I understand that a lot of people want to be here. Everyone can't come that wants to be here. So we have to vet you, and we have to do so in a legal and orderly fashion. And I say we have to, we should have to, we aren't. Not right now. It has been reported that we have seen in November more illegal border crossings than at any time in the history of the United States of America. You want to know what number 2 was or is? If November was number 1, October was number 2. You want to know what number 3 was or is? So the amount of illegal aliens coming into the United States of America that we know about. Understand that these numbers are so fluid, and they're a little misleading because of those that we know about, there are those that we do not know about that just are gotaways. November is the number 1 month, 191,000 illegal immigrants into the United States of America. October was number 2, 188,778. September was number 3. You get the pattern here? We are lied to by the people in the Biden administration telling us, Karine Jean-Pierre and others, oh, come on, guys. Alejandro Mayorkas has been saying this for months. Guys, this is seasonal. This happens during every administration. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You're lying to the people of the United States of America, and you're using the emotional sensibilities of folks that feel bad for some of the people that are coming across the southern border against the better judgment and against the future of the United States. And so for this reason, sorry, I accidentally bumped the hotline there, my bad. For this reason, it has been announced that the Republicans are going to again call for the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Illegal immigration at the southern border ticked up again in November, continuing the Department of Homeland Security's string of disastrous months, fueling Republicans to call for, at the beginning of the year, further impeachment inquiries on the Homeland Security Secretary. He is not doing his job. He is ignoring his job. And for that reason, someone needs to do something about it. Border Patrol agents nabbed more than, as I mentioned, 191,000 illegal immigrants in the Southwest. Customs and Border Protection officers encountered 51,000 other unauthorized immigrants who showed up demanding entry. Many of them are being welcomed under President Biden's, quote, parole program, which promises a quick catch and release. You know, this is one of the things that Donald Trump stopped. He stopped this concept of catch and release. He further had a wait in Mexico policy that worked. This was the Title 42 that was working, and it was instituted through COVID. But a lack of a COVID should in no way impede the United States of America for protecting our southern borders. And we could if we wanted to. And before you go off with me on, well, Joe Biden says that he asked for the money and the Republicans stopped the money. No, he did not want money for border security. He wanted money for processing. The money that was demanded by the Democrats, if you read, the devil's always in the details in this legislation. It is 187,000 pages for a reason, because they know that you and I will not read all of it. However, we do, and we report back. The funding that Joe Biden was demanding from the Republican Party on Capitol Hill was money that would go to processing illegal immigrants into the United States of America, largely paper pushers and buses and other transportation means by which they would move individuals from the southern border to other parts of the country. Because, you know, optics. We're dealing with a Biden administration that's far more concerned with optics and how things look bad for them than they are you, the American citizen. Now, sadly, the political left paints a picture that if I am in any way mildly critical of the Biden administration, or if I cast a dose of reality on this situation, I am immediately labeled as some sort of ist. I'm a racist or a xenophobe or some sort of otherist where I just don't like people because they are the other, which is nonsense. It is an ad hominem political attack that has no merit or no foundation in reality. What I would suggest to you is that with the good people that choose to break the law in an attempt to make a better life for themselves, you now have a flood of other people. And you don't have to believe me. Just use your own brains and use your common sense. My grandpa used to say they ought to call common sense uncommon sense because I don't see so much of it walking around anymore. But just using our common sense. In any group dynamic, if you have 200 people, some of those people are going to be bad people. It's a basic statistical analysis. So if you have 200,000 people flooding the zone of the southern border last month alone, 200,000 people in a month that were known to border security. Sure, plenty of those people are, quote, hardworking individuals that just want to make a life for themselves. Not that we can withstand that many of those people either for the benefit or for the betterment of the United States, because we only have so many resources. Our infrastructure can only take so much. But set that argument aside for a moment and know that with those good people are coming bad people. We know, check the box. We know that drug smugglers are among them. We know that human smugglers are among them. We know that child smugglers are among them. We know that fentanyl pushers are among them. We know that gang members are among them. We know that drug cartels are among them. We know that terrorists are among them. We know that foreign nationals from places like China and Iraq and Iran and other parts of the Middle East are among them. It is not fear-mongering, it is reality. And as that reality settles in for me, one wonders, and I try not to be this guy. The day after Christmas, I want to talk about good things like, the Airplane movie and Dirty Santa. But with everything else going on in the world, with the threat levels being what they are, with the anti-American protests that are going on around the United States of America, and yes, I believe that these so-called pro-Palestinian protests are in fact anti-American. We'll discuss that later. With all of that going on, how long before something explodes? I mean, literally, how long? How long before something blows up? How long before we face a reality that we had foreknowledge of events coming to a head that led to a disastrous assault on American freedom and on American soil? I fear it is coming sooner rather than later, because with all of the illegal immigration flooding the zone, there are going to be bad people who are coming for a purpose other than simply getting work. Or even above and beyond individuals that want to smuggle drugs or do other illegal type activities. The worst of the worst would be the terrorists. And if you don't believe that they want to commit another act of atrocity against the United States of America on par or even greater than 9/11, I believe you are whistling past the graveyard. Many of you responding on this subject on the super text line. You're invited to do that. And I know that Brian does callers from time to time. I'm an open book when it comes to phone calls, so anytime you want to call in, you are invited. 615-737-9986. We also have invited Congressman Tim Burchett to join the party coming up just after 4 o'clock, and he will do so. It is a post-Christmas edition of The Drive with no Brian Wilson, Matt in for Brian on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
The latest in the Israel-Hamas war as destruction in Gaza continues. Crime in Tennessee as a shooting in Antioch took place over the weekend. We'll tell you when and where what all happened. An increase in respiratory illnesses across the nation and a fatal crash today in Nashville. 4 o'clock, all right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mac Morey. It is 3:55, almost 3:56. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in the saddle for Brian Wilson. Brian is taking some much-deserved time off this week. I'll be here from 3 until 7 every day this week. You can also catch me tonight on Red Eye Radio from midnight until 5 a.m. I feel like I'm pulling kind of Amanda's. I'm doing a little bit of double duty.
Yeah, it is kind of Amanda's, isn't it?
I did midnight to 5 this morning, took a little nap, and came back to do this show, and then the turnaround tonight is the one that's a little concerning because we'll be done at 7 o'clock. Then there's about a 30-minute drive home. Got to decompress a little bit. Got to take a little bit of a nap before you get back at it and after it for
So you're not quite on the Mandis level, because he would have done a midday show in Fort Wayne or something.
He's doing Red Eye tomorrow night. He's on vacation. He's doing Red Eye tomorrow night. I can't stay away from it.
Yeah, that's it.
Mandis texted me today and said, "Hey, give me a rundown of the things that you're talking about on Red Eye tonight, so I don't repeat too much that you're doing." And I said, "Isn't it your birthday?" I said that to myself, not to him, but I thought it. I said okay, but it's his birthday. Everybody, it's Dan Mandis' birthday today.
It's true.
The boss man is, and he doesn't look 60. I mean, he just doesn't.
Is he 60?
No, I don't think so. I'm just saying he doesn't look 60.
Well, you got that going for you, Dan.
Yeah. Which is nice. Mm-hmm. All right. Mike's in Chattanooga wants to talk border security and the difference between border security and immigration policy. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, of course.
I listen to you all the time.
Yes, sir.
What happened was about 2 months ago, my father, Michael Sr. from Kentucky, he would drive the truck also, right down below Atlanta, Georgia, was out doing his pre-check on his truck on the route, and he gets hit from behind by two young guys. Fortunately, they was Mexican young men. They caught him about 30 miles down the road. They hit him, kept going, hit him with his mirror, and then hit him in his lower back. Well, we get a call about it. Me and my mom, we drive down to find Dad at the hospital, and the doctor tells us he's paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh, my goodness.
Where the impact is, it damaged his spine so bad that it's irreversible. I mean, it's sad, really sad. But here's what's sadder than that, guys. While we was talking to the district attorney of Atlanta about the whole 9 yard, can they do, what's the process going to be on these two guys? They was driving a vehicle, hadn't been tagged in 4 years. No license, no documentation, nothing. He got looking around. He said, hey, that boy's been here twice and sent back, and this has been here 4 times and sent back. Now, why in the hell ain't anybody at all standing up? The American people go down to the border and say, hey, you're going to stay in Mexico, is what Biden needs to tell him when he goes down here soon. Get your legal documents. Become what you need to do to come here and do it right. Because now my father, God, I love him to death, but I can see it in his eyes, it's just devastated. I mean, completely just unbelievable. That he was still in his prime of his life. He was only 59 years old. And it's a crying shame to see what he's going through.
He's still paralyzed?
It's a crying.
I mean, he from the waist down?
He's got a little bit of motion in his left leg, but his right leg is asleep, is the way they described it to us, and he'll never be woke up again. I've got something I could text you, the X-rays, all that stuff.
Oh, Mike,
blow your mind.
I wish your story was isolated, and you hang in there and keep listening, because I'm going to respond to what you just said. It's an awful story. But it is happening with way too much regularity here in the United States of America. I'll tell you why. It is a cold political calculus being made on the part of the Democrats. And Joe Biden sadly does not care about your father. We'll talk about it more in the second hour of The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$49 degrees right now and 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Got a traffic report and a complete weather forecast headed your way in about 5 minutes. Starting in the Israel-Hamas war, a general with Israel Defense Forces expects the ground offensive in Gaza to continue for months. And as Justin Finch explains, Israelis with family members still missing are pleading with the government to get their loved ones back.
In Tel Aviv, heartbroken families of civilian hostages held in Gaza pleading for the Israeli government's help to free their loved ones. The crowd amassing outside the Israeli Defense Ministry complex and propping up hourglasses they say represent time running out for captives held in Gaza since the Hamas October 7th terrorist attack on Israel.
And this coming as an ally of Benjamin Netanyahu, who was at the White House today visiting with President Biden, discussing the future of Gaza. Crime in Tennessee, a shooting took place in Antioch and resulted in one injured, another dead. It was on Pepperwood Drive last night around 7:30 when 25-year-old Anthony Gatewood Jr. died. Corjan Bowling was injured from the gunshots, but he's in stable condition. Gatewood and Bowling arrived at the scene together. They do not know why they were there. However, officials said that Bowling, who has 11 outstanding warrants, is going to be jailed following his release from the hospital. He forfeited a $35,000 bond for not showing up for his last court appearance. And a big increase in respiratory illness across the country. This comes as flu and RSV levels are elevated and COVID hospitalizations are now trending up. Dr. Darian Sutton explains why.
Vaccine rates, unfortunately, are not as high as we would hope. Approximately only 18.5% of people have gotten an update in their COVID vaccines. And then, of course, we have this new variant that is likely associated with this increased transmission. And so that should provide some concern as evidence that it might be more likely to transmit from one person to another. But it's not evading our methods of protection, wearing a mask, washing our surfaces, washing our hands, and then, of course, making sure that we're updated on our vaccines.
And back here in Tennessee with a fatal crash, the Tennessee Highway Patrol investigating a collision that left one dead this morning on I-65. It happened near mile marker 60 in Williamson County, past I-840. The crash completely closed all northbound lanes for some time. There is still no details in this crash. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is The Drive, and no Brian Wilson today. Brian is out this week celebrating the holiday with family and friends. We are in for Brian. My name is Matt Murphy, normally heard from noon until 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What a great job Joan Jones did. A little too good for my taste. She's fabulous. Joan Jones filling in for me over the course of this week, and I'm filling in for the irreplaceable Brian Wilson. Brian is back in the new year, and I'm back in my normal position from noon until 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can also hear me on Red Eye Radio tonight from midnight until 5 on these very airwaves. You can view the proceedings if you so desire. I'm kind of a little worse for wear on the television side of things, but here we are. On TV, you can find us, Super Talk TV up and running, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. As always, the conversation brought to you by F&M Bank. The F&M Bank chat line is up and running as well, and you're invited to be a part of that. I'll tell you, chat galore about Congressman Tim Burchett, who cannot manage to keep himself out of the news. It's almost as if he's truth-telling and people are listening. He joins us on the Murphy Show / The Drive hotline this afternoon to talk about some of the latest. Congressman, Merry Christmas. Hope you had a good one.
I did, Matt. I hope you had one too, brother.
Absolutely fabulous time. You're in the state of Tennessee, I trust, so it's better already, right? You make that flight from D.C. to Tennessee, and everything gets better.
Everything. I can have the best day of my life, pass legislation. Everybody loves me, get a Nobel Peace Prize. I can come home and the cable TV's out, the dog's crapped on the carpet, and the horses are loose, the fences are down. It's still the best day to be back in Tennessee.
Amen. Tell me, I know we talked last week in my slot from noon until 3, but so much has gone on between then and now. I had to have you back on, and I admit something. I've not been following the story regarding Jeffrey Epstein, or at least the latest involving the story, as much as I potentially should. And so I thought this an opportunity to catch me up on where we are. Now, obviously, I'm aware of Epstein. I'm aware of the crimes committed by him. I'm aware of his circle of sexual pedophiles that he cultivated and seemingly groomed.
Right.
But now,
oddly enough, Dick Durbin was not when he was asked by a reporter after he smarted off to our great Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's a patriot.
She is.
Basically, he was asked by a reporter, and he said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard anything. There's nobody talking about that." And I thought to myself, buddy, you don't want to meet your maker, and when you had a chance to do something for kids that have been sexually abused, I'll tell you that guy, that's what turned my stomach on the whole dadgum thing. When I saw that, I thought, well, Marsha, or Senator Blackburn, I knew her when she was Marsha when we were in the state Senate together, but when she, brought that issue up and they snubbed her, I thought, well, we'll take it over to the Republican-controlled House and see if they'll do any better. And Chairman Comer is on board with it. And we got this impeachment stuff going on, or inquiry, but we'll hand that over to the Judiciary Committee. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath. I've been fixing a fence, mending a fence, as they say, not metaphysically, but actual fence out here.
Do you need some help? I can get Mac Morey out to where you are, right? I mean, we need to get a little work product out of him. I can get him out there. He's got a strong back.
Well, he needs to. This is about to kill me. Of course, I'm 59. But anyway, this thing is out of control. And then you have a national media who is not asking. Oh, they're saying, oh, give us the flight logs. Like that's going to show anything. They could have had corporate people out there. It could have been a retreat or something. Probably not. But that doesn't. I want the client list. I want the little black book that they took out of his apartment or condo or whatever they call that up in New York. Because they took all those files out, on the computer. That's where they got it. And we'll never see anything of that because our Justice Department is they've been compromised. There's no question.
Well, let me read you this line from the New York Post and see how you respond to it. Because the Post had an article about this, and this was dated December 19th, so a week ago. More than 170 people with ties to Jeffrey Epstein, including ex-employees and victims, are in store for an uncomfortable start to the new year, with their names set to be dredged up in a trove of court documents to be unsealed in the coming weeks. Are you saying that's not going to happen, or is that different than what you're talking about?
Well, that'll happen, but that's your flight logs.
Okay.
There's they're separate stuff. And they captured a whole bunch, not just 117 names. That's been out for a long time, with the exception of one or two on there. I suspect that's been out. I've seen that. That's been on the internet. It's been everywhere. But we've got to get a hold of this other stuff that the Justice Department will hold and never get turned loose of. And those 117 need to answer why they were on that island. But again, and I think Bill Clinton, he made multiple trips, and you can draw your own conclusion there. But the truth is that this thing's been a cover-up from day one. Epstein is either, I tweeted right before he died, I said, I hope he doesn't suicide him. Somebody doesn't suicide him. And sure enough, just like within minutes, I felt like a prophet or something. But he, the most watched prisoner in the world, most talked about prisoner in the world. There wasn't a media, the big three, whatever, every night led with his story. And then he's on suicide watch. And you know how suicide watch is generally, you're in a little room. They're not allowed anything there. No, you can't have your belt. You can't even have shoelaces. You can't have paper towels. You can't do anything. And allegedly he hung himself and choked himself on his toilet paper or something. The cameras weren't working magically, and the two guards were still. Where are they? Why were they not brought to justice? What are their names that were supposed to be watching him on suicide watch that were both had screwed up and taken a break at the same time or something? This whole thing just stinks. You know it. I know it. And we just, wink and a nod going about it. It's like cocaine in the White House. Well, we've researched all we can. It's over now. And that's where it ends. And it's just not right. America needs to know. We need to know if our leaders, Republicans or Democrats, were involved in this thing. You're talking about pedophiles, people, and they say sex with a child. They don't have sex with a child. They have violence with a child. A child does not have sex. Childs are violently violated.
Do you believe that, speculation obviously, but do you believe that this, outside of the Bill Clinton speculation, we know that Clinton was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you think that this would point fingers at other Republicans currently on Capitol Hill?
I don't know about that. There's too much time between them. Most of those guys didn't have the power that Epstein, the quality or caliber of people Epstein would try to get to blackmail or to control. I honestly don't. There could be, but the reason I think Durbin's doing it is because of his good buddy Bill Clinton. That's why he's pulling that deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he might be. I don't know if he is or not, but that's just the way they operate. He's keeping it quiet. He'll take a little heat so he doesn't have to take any more heat in the future. And I'm getting jumped on. Republicans are texting me saying, you don't know anybody. Well, I know of two, one that was blackmailed and one that was attempted to be blackmailed. And they've told me that, I've told the other day one I talked to, and that was in confidence, and I'm not going to put that out. But the truth is that, we've got one Democrat we know of that was had a relationship. I don't know what it went to. I didn't never see them, on a camera or anything, but they had a relationship, and that was a Chinese communist spy. That's been talked about, and that person was allowed to stay on the Intelligence Committee.
That's you're talking about Eric Swalwell.
Exactly.
So you believe that there are others, and you made this statement last week, and I want you to just kind of explain it for those who might have missed the initial statements, that you believe that in addition to Swalwell, much documented that he was caught in this spy ring with a Chinese spy, and as you mentioned, remained on the Intelligence Committee for a good amount of time after that came out. You believe
he's actually the one that reserved the spot for Hunter Biden on at the
That's right.
Also called press. So you have to be a member of the legislature to reserve a spot up there, but he did it.
But you believe other lawmakers, including some Republicans, perhaps have fallen prey or victim to these honeypot schemes. Explain what a honeypot scheme is. Is it as simple as the Swalwell scenario?
No. The Swalwell scenario is interesting in the fact that we think they just go into a motel or go into a bar somewhere and hook up with some legislator. They film it, and then they whisper in their ear, hey, man, you don't want this stuff out. You need to help us on this bill. And you're like, crap, I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into my my marriage, and then ruin this sweetheart deal I've got by not working and drawing a big fat paycheck in Congress. And by far, nobody. It's a very small number. It's not like half of Congress or anything, but the way they cast that net is I had breakfast, and I've talked about this before, but I've had breakfast with Secretary Pompeo, and this was, I guess, over a year ago. And he talked about how they infiltrate down to the PTA level in some areas of California. So they'll meet you. You'll become friends with one in a Chinese national, perhaps in college, for instance, and they'll befriend you, and then all of a sudden you get kind of just pulled in gradual, and they're playing the long ball. And maybe that person will never get elected to anything past student council president at some small university, but they got Swalwell. He went all the way to the United States Congress and was sitting on the Intelligence Committee. And now the Intelligence Committee, they brief you on things that are going on in the world that, even I, as a regular sitting member of Congress, am not allowed. I'm not privileged to see these documents and see what's going on in the world. And it's some pretty harrowing stuff. So you figure they started out there, and they talk about they have hundreds of these people out here across our country. And right now, coming over our southern border, they're catching a lot of Chinese, and they have to go a long way to get a job to work in a motel somewhere. It costs a couple of continents to get over here. So there's more to it, and they've been doing it for a long time. And you go, and the way they work it is you go to on the short term deal. You'll go on a trip overseas, and we get to go on a lot of trips. You're sitting there, and you go to you're at your motel bar or something, and some attractive person, male or female, or a combination thereof, is talking to you. They're laughing at your jokes, and they buy you a drink, or you buy them a drink. Next thing you know, you're in the motel room, and it's on film. And that's the way the Russians did it. It's called the honeypot, and it was very successful. They entrapped a lot of people that way, and they're continuing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And human nature is that you want, for sexually charged individuals, we want attention, and and we like attractive people. That's human nature, and that's how they lure you in. Now, how else do they do it? Jobs. Maybe your girlfriend and your wife has a nice job in the defense industry or something like that, and you don't want that out, or they lure you in on some job, and they're making more than you do in Congress, and they got your ear on issues, and maybe they help you get a little funding for their little pet project, and that's the other way they do it.
Are you concerned with retaliation? I want to ask that question and leave it hanging out there. I want to take a quick time out because I want to ask you about Madison Cawthorn. Madison Cawthorn, for those who don't know, was a representative in North Carolina who served one term, a young man. He was physically disabled, had lost the use of his legs, and he talked about in March of 2022 the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, D.C., and eventually there were a variety of reasons why he was dispatched of in Washington, but he was primaried. He moved to a different district, was primaried in that district, and was removed from office. He lost re-election. I'm hearing that there are Republicans that want to challenge Tim Burchett, not just for some of the language he's using today, but that's a part of why this primary is being proposed. We'll ask Tim Burchett about that in just a moment. It's 420 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
Pressures from nations around the world continue for a ceasefire in Gaza. And today's Money News Report, those stories 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock. Right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mac Maury. It is 4:23. I take it back. You're doing a little bit of work outside of the fence work that you could be doing with Tim Burchett right
I know. Tim needs my help. I got to get out of here.
I think we would probably be doing a good service by just leaving it with Weber and going out and helping Burchett for a little bit.
Legs, not the back.
That's right. Live with the legs. Don't live with the. Trust me, your back won't complain until you're 50 like me, and then it starts complaining mightily if you lift with your back and not with your legs. Congressman Burchett, are you at all concerned? By the way, Ann writes in and says, "Hey Matt, Tim Burchett is my favorite. I've learned more from him than any other person in Congress, and you're good too, Matt. I sure did miss listening to you." Well, that's nice of her to say about me. Even nicer for her to say about you. You're just speaking the truth, and I appreciate this. And you're cutting across party lines in a way that I worry that some might want to come after you. I'm not comparing you to Madison Cawthorn because I think he had his own list of issues, but I believe he was speaking the truth when he talked about the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, D.C., some of the parties that I've heard tell tale about. Variety of congressmen and politicians tell these stories about arriving at these parties and turning around and leaving mighty quick because of what's going on behind closed doors. Are you concerned that this might put a target on your back, Tim?
For the record, I've been in Congress in 5 years, and I've never been invited to or attended any sex parties or anything like that. I was in the state legislature, and I've always talked about how if you want trouble, it's going to find you regardless if you're in college or at Bible school or something. It's still going to find you. But yeah,
Sure.
they've already got people. Somebody's already flown to Washington, and the big boys have promised them a big bunch of money, and they've done a push poll. Would you vote for Tim Burchett or rather have an ice pick stuck in your ear? That kind of, it's a push poll. It's a very aggressive kind of thing to show to somebody, hey, you can beat Tim Burchett. But, I don't know what else to do other than to tell that. I'm not trying to be over noble or anything, but we're going to tell the truth, dadgummit. And if somebody asks me, if a reporter asks me what's going on, like you did, I'm going to tell them. And that's just the way it is. I can't speak, like I said, I can't speak for anything that Madison was talking about.
What do you believe will come of the subpoena by Marsha Blackburn? I mean, she wants this list. She wants this book.
I don't believe anything will become of it on the Senate side because I don't believe that the chairman has the ultimate say or the power, and I think they're compromised. And the Democrats, figuratively and literally, they're in bed with this stuff. This is just a microcosm of what's going on across the country. And I was in the legislature with good folks that just happen to be Democrats, lobbyists and legislators, House members and senators, and this is just so far from those days. It's really kind of sad.
While I have you, what do you believe should be the most pressing issue in front of the United States Congress in 2024 when you guys reconvene?
Fiscal sanity and the border, and they're very much intertwined. You have 8 million that have come over the border in the last 3 years. You got 100,000 children that are missing somewhere in the system, and we don't know where they are, which to me is a bellwether for horrible things to come to our country if we don't correct that. You can call it karma. I can just call it God, because he's not going to put up with this stuff much longer. And of course, the fiscal sanity issue, we take in $5 trillion, we spend $7 trillion every year. And that cuts both sides of the aisle. But right now, the Democrats are stopping every cost-saving measure. H.R. 2, which would basically effectively stop what's going on at the border and help build the wall, the Senate won't even bring it up. And that's, you talk about the $114 billion unchecked dollars to Ukraine plus whatever. We're over there. We're getting in the middle of a bunch of little skirmishes that could lead to a bigger conflict. It's tough to vote a president out when you're at war. Historically in this country, I don't believe that's ever happened. Whether it be Lincoln,
do you suggest that's where we're headed in the early stages of 2024? That we're going to see boots on the ground?
We could. I think they'd like to do that. And thankfully, a lot of Republicans want to see that. I don't. You take an oath to uphold the Constitution. I don't know why we're in Syria. Most people couldn't find it on a map. What what constitutional purpose are we serving being over there? Why are we in all these little skirmishes all over the world that you know about and that we don't know about that are, incidental kind of things? But Americans are over there. They ought not be, and we need to bring them home. We ought to put them on the southern border and start protecting this country. Because we've spent. Trump wanted to spend $4 billion, and Congress did, frankly, for the wall on the border wall, and we couldn't do it. It just was, fiscally, the Democrats, we can't afford it. This is crazy. We need for all these other projects. Haven't heard a peep out of them on the $114 billion that we spent on Ukraine, protecting their border from Russia. So I think our priorities are out of whack. I think we're compromised at the highest levels. Why else would we be doing this? And people are mad at me, and that's fine. That's just the way it is.
Well, that means you're rocking the boat. That's a good thing. I don't believe your constituents are mad at you at all. I think they appreciate your openness and your honesty and speaking what you see with your own eyes and how you process a lot of the information that's coming at you in Washington, D.C. Real quick, with a minute left, I would say this. On the border, sadly, not enough people recognize the seriousness of the situation, the existential threat that it's become, because the people that are controlling Biden, they've been masters. Every time they're asked about border security, all they want to talk about is immigration policy, which are two different things. Now, they're interrelated, obviously, but they immediately pivot immigration policy, and the mainstream media won't bring them back to the border security question.
And then when Joe Biden said he wants to limit it to 1 million illegals a year, 1 million. That's 1/8 the population of Tennessee. It's because they're already all here. Places like Guatemala, they don't have adult men to work anymore. They're all up here. If they'll earn $5,000 to $8,000 a year, they'll stay in their own countries in Central America. That's where we got it. We got to start exporting capitalism and not drag shows.
Well spoken. It's a great place to end it. Congressman, thank you. Thank you for getting away from the fence mending for just a moment to spend some time with us on Super Talk on the Drive. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. We'll talk to you again soon.
Right on. See y'all. Thank you.
Take care. There's Tim Burchett joining us for a good half hour of conversation. It is 4:30 on Super Talk on the Drive.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 50 degrees on Music Row. We got a forecast and a traffic report just ahead, 5 minutes. International pressures continue to build for a ceasefire in Gaza as the Israeli military expands its ground offensive to densely populated refugee camps in the central Gaza Strip. Justin Finch with the latest.
A top IDF general saying they are concentrating their efforts on the southern Gaza Strip, Khan Yunis, and the central part of the territory. And they're expecting the war to continue for many more months. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says at least 70 people were killed in an airstrike on a central Gaza refugee camp in what may have been the most deadly bombing of a single target since the start of the war.
And this all comes as a top advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is at the White House discussing the future there of Gaza. Money news, here's Daria Albinger.
Indexes posting gains on the last trading week of 2023. The Dow up 159 points. The Nasdaq gained 81 points and the S&P up 20. Despite higher prices, Americans ramped up their spending during the holiday season. MasterCard Spending Pulse found sales from the beginning of November through Christmas Eve climbed 3.1%. Americans are expected to spend nearly $30 billion on gift cards this holiday season, but many of those cards will be unused. Bankrate found nearly half of American adults had at least one unused gift card worth an average of $187. That's a total of $23 billion in unspent money. It was a very Merry Christmas for The Color Purple. The musical reboot opened to $18.1 million on Monday, the second best Christmas Day opening of all time, not adjusted for inflation. Sherlock Holmes from 2009 holds the record with $24.6 million.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather just ahead. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Yes, indeed. It is The Drive. Brian Wilson off this week. Matt Murphy in for Brian. Joan Jones in for me. I'm normally on from noon until 3. For those who miss me during the course of the day, I hope you're able to catch me. What? I just noticed something on the X machine. I've decided, starting in 2024, and I guess a little early, I'm going to begin calling. I feel weird about calling it X because that just seems so generic. And I know Elon Musk is obsessed with the letter. He names everything that he has control over except for Tesla, X, SpaceX, and he has now renamed Twitter X. But everyone still calls it Twitter. But I feel like that's weird. I don't want to call the social media platform by the wrong pronouns, for goodness sake. So I've decided I'm going to refer to it as the X machine.
It works.
It works for me.
I think. What is it called when you what you would normally or formally tweet? What do you call it? Is it still called a tweet?
I still call it a tweet because I've always called it a tweet. I think you would call it an X post.
X post, okay. Yeah.
I think that's probably the proper nomenclature, if that's the right verbiage. But I don't know what a grok is. Have you seen this? Over on I just noticed it because I'd pulled up a piece that I wanted to play you guys from Alejandro Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary. And it said over because I'd pulled up. Wait a minute, that's me. I just pulled a McMaury. I just listened to me. Look, listen how good I sound. And it said over because I'd pulled up. Wait a minute, that's me. I just pulled a McMaury. I just listened to me. I'm listening to me say what I just said because I'd pulled up. Oh my God, that's me.
It's a Christmas miracle. There's two of them.
All right,
this is getting a little too meta.
It's getting yeah. Getting a little weird. Trust me, most people don't want one of me, much less two of me. And by the way, speaking of what you just heard was the YouTube feed because I have the channel up just to make sure that the presentation is good. Would someone go over to the F&M Bank chat line and talk to Turd Ferguson? For the love, would someone do me? I'm busy or I would do it. I've got a little show to do. I've got to try to keep you listeners here for Brian's return in the new year. Would someone go over and talk to Turd Ferguson for the love? Is he there every day?
I don't know. He's there quite often, but I picture him sitting behind the keyboard watching with a giant foam cowboy hat on. Just me.
Chewing on some gum. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Turd Ferguson. Yeah. If you know, you know. So, yes, there's something on the social media platform known as the X Machine. There's Home, Explore, Notifications, Messages, and then right above lists and below messages, it says Grok.
Grok?
Grok. I don't know. Right. What is that?
I just had to Google it. It's a chat bot, apparently. A conversational, generative, artificial intelligence chat bot.
So,
mouthful. It's basically, it's Elon's competitor to the Chat GPT. It's his version.
I don't know enough about Chat GPT. So I could go in and talk to Grok?
Apparently, yes.
Or have Grok talk for me? Maybe?
Maybe.
Well, you could have Grok write you something, yeah.
Suddenly I feel like an old man trying to work the remote. So Grok could write something for me. He could compose.
You could say, Grok, I've got a 12-minute segment on a news political talk station, and I need you to fill it in. I would love the content to be circled around the 2024 GOP political election. Make it right-wing leaning. Thank you, Grok.
You shouldn't be telling Matt this. This is gonna be his show content for the next week.
I got a lot of show to do for this week. I could probably right now it's Arthur has written in, who is Taylor Swift dating? And Grok responded, Taylor Swift. I know it went away. So I don't know what's going on. Premium Plus subscribers can now use our most advanced AI, Grok.
Oh, you have to pay for it
on the X Machine. Well, I thought I was premium. Who knows? One way or the other, it has completely distracted me, and I apologize for that. So what I did want to relate to you is that Alejandro Mayorkas is now under threat of impeachment yet again, and somewhat rightly so. Alejandro Mayorkas has abdicated his duties as the Homeland Security Secretary in a way that is endangering all of us. And I want to share some of these numbers with you because this has become, as I've mentioned in the first of the show, and I don't want to labor on this story. We've got plenty of more to talk about. But according to Custom and Border Patrol agents, there have been over, and this is Bill Malugin, who I trust implicitly on this matter. He is down there all the time. He's covering this all the time, and he does great work for the United States of America and for Fox. There have been over 730,000 migrant encounters at the southern border since October 1st. October, November, that's just under 3 months. That is a population bigger than the size of the city of Denver, Colorado, that arrived at the southern border in less than 3 months. December, and these people all get in. They all get in. They all get in. December is on pace to set the highest numbers ever recorded in the history of this country. In the meantime, here's what the Biden White House wants you to know.
I want to be very clear. Our borders are not open.
I would say this. The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else.
That's just such a lie. I know. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know why more people are not enraged.
Fox News Alert, I want to give you a live look at what's happening down there in Eagle Pass, Texas, okay? Border agents there are calling this the worst they've ever seen in terms of migrants coming across. And these images are just incredible. You'll remember the people trying to get on the train last week.
That's Daniel Perino looking at a camera shot that the Department of Homeland Security has desperately tried to stop in Eagle Pass, Texas, and Del Rio, Texas. They've attempted to get these drones out of the sky because they do not like the optics of the numbers of individuals that are coming into the United States of America to be seen by the American public.
The people that got on the train, that's who those people are right now that are sitting outside Eagle Pass waiting to get processed. The Border Patrol is completely overwhelmed, and they say they are 260% over capacity at this point, and that's
they're over capacity at this point, and so the Republicans are doing something that most Democrats are calling a political stunt. They are calling on the removal of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for a lack of not ability, but for a lack of willingness to do his job, and that is the major difference. It is one thing to say, I am trying my best. It is another thing to lie and say, I am trying my best when it is clear, based on evidence over the last 2 years, that you are not, in fact, trying your best. You are allowing this to happen for political reasons. I want to go back and answer a question that was asked by the caller from the previous hour. Right at the top of the hour, he asked a question about why we aren't doing more, what more can we do, why the Democrats are allowing this to happen. It is a cold political calculus, and this caller was reflecting on, if you missed it, it was right at the latter portion of the 3 o'clock hour, about almost an hour ago, where he related a sad story of his father getting into an accident and being paralyzed. And he was in an accident by illegal alien. Now, accidents happen every day. American citizens get into accidents with other American citizens. This is not to suggest that this is uniquely a problem of illegal alien activity. But what I would tell you, and it's pretty obvious to most with a brain, that if you are not allowed into the United States of America illegally, then you would not be on American roadways illegally. You would not be operating a motor vehicle on said roadways, and you would not be a danger to yourself or to others on said roadways because you wouldn't be here. You would be in your country of origin. Sadly, the Democrats don't care. They don't care about this gentleman's father. They have determined that in the long game, they can suffer the short-term political damage over what's happening at the southern border for the benefit of the votes that they get in return. Democrats believe, and I have talked to Republicans and Democrats alike in Washington, D.C., that confirm that this is an actual calculus that is being made in Washington, D.C., that as these individuals are absorbed into the United States of America and as they slowly but surely in various states secure voting rights, which is the next step in their goals, the calculus is that between 7 and 7.5 out of every 10 will vote Democrat. That is the cold math done by the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C., and why they won't do anything about our southern border. They don't care about you. They don't care about the strain in infrastructure. They'll blame all of that on Republicans. They already do. Every time we talk about border security, they flip to immigration policy. Those two things aren't the same thing. Immigration policy is a set of rules and standards by which we allow people legally to enter this country for a variety of reasons. All of them should be predicated on one basic premise. Is your entry to the United States of America going to be a benefit for the United States of America? That should be the first question calculated as to whether or not you should allow individuals to enter this country. Will you be a benefit to this country? There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing xenophobic about saying that. I can have compassion for every single human being in South America, for every single human being that wants to come here from Guatemala or Honduras or Mexico and want to make a better life for themselves. And I do have compassion for those people. But if we allow all of them here, which is currently what we're doing, we will become the country that they're leaving. I pause for effect. It is true. They will not rise to our level of standard of living. We will fall to theirs because of the overwhelming burden and strain on the system. And secondarily, sad but true, when it is easy to achieve something, you have less respect for that. It is human nature. I watched it happen when I was a kid. I'll tell you a story. I'm so blessed to have my grandpa in my life. I don't know what I would be without him. I ain't much with him, but I don't know what I would be without him. My grandfather recognized that, well, I started driving when I was 12. My grandfather taught me to drive my mother's car. Actually, I learned on his big F650 work truck, but my grandfather taught me to drive my mother's car so that I would drive her to the grocery store as opposed to her driving herself. My mother was very stubborn. She had overcome brain cancer. And she relearned to drive and was very, very bad at it. She had multiple fender bender accidents in our little town of Thompson, Georgia, and one pretty significant accident that almost killed her. And it was after that accident that my grandfather decided that it might be in the best interest of everyone involved that he teach me to drive a little early. And he did. So I started driving my mom around illegally, obviously, when I was about 12. About 12 and a half. Spring into summer of my 12th year. So I was driving pretty early. Well, I started clamoring about a vehicle when I was 15. I already had a bike, a motorcycle. A dirt bike. And my grandfather told me, he said, you better start saving up. And I was kind of surprised. And he said, I'm not buying you a car. You're buying you a car. You need to save up. I raised $400 to buy a broken down 1980 Chevrolet Monza. For those who don't know, I say Monza and people hear Mazda. Ooh, Murphy had a Mazda. Nope, it was not a Mazda, I assure you. It was a Monza, which was Chevrolet's version of the Ford Pinto, basically. Had a hatchback to it. My grandfather thought that he made it cool because my gear shift, he put a 8-ball on the gear shift.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, I know. That's pretty slick. Yeah. Sadly, he could not repair the credibility and popularity damage done by the rest of the vehicle, but be that as it may. So the car was for sale. It was a friend of my grandpa's. He was willing to sell it for $400. The engine was shot in it. My grandfather told me that if I could raise the $400 to buy the car, that he would pay to rebuild the engine and rebuild the transmission. We would do it together. He was a self-employed mechanic. I raised the money. It took me better part of a summer of my 15th year, prior to my 16th birthday. We rebuilt the engine together, little 4-cylinder, 151 cubic centimeter, I think it was. We rebuilt the transmission, and that car got me through high school and a couple of years of college before it eventually broke down. I hated that car. I hated it. And I have so much value for that vehicle now because there was no appreciation. I watched as other high school kids got brand new Ford Mustangs, got awesome one kid had a BMW. What was her name? Lori Cranford with a BMW. Get BMW. Matt Murphy's got a 1980 Chevrolet Monza. It's a beater. But I learned value. They learned no value. They had no respect for their vehicles. I certainly did. The same concept can be applied to the difficulty of immigrating to a place that you want to be and recognizing that you melt into that society as opposed to bring your own problems and your own circumstances with you and create that which you are fleeing from. Hello, all of you Californians in Tennessee, listen up. Let's not bring that which we are leaving with us when we come. More to be said on this, and more to be said as to why Alejandro Mayorkas needs to go and why he won't. It's a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, sadly. It's 4:53. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies, and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call. Go to paulwinkler.com. It's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
More calls around the globe for a ceasefire in Gaza, crime in Tennessee over the Christmas weekend, and Kanye West making an apology. We'll tell you what for at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I have a little Christmas present for you. right before the top of the hour, right before the depressing news. That's what Mac Morey's here for, right? He's delivering. I know that I'm kind of delivering the depressing news, talking about the southern border too. But, Mac Morey's here for the depressing news. You want to hear a little good news? At least for me it is. It's pretty funny. Have you ever been through a situation where somebody gets all ticked off about being mispronounced? I've never had this happen in my personal life.
Luckily, I have not.
My grandfather had a habit of, he called friends in his peer group man, M-A-N, a lot. And I have found, and I've noticed over the last couple of years that I do it a lot, as in, what's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on, man? Nice to see you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a good day. See ya. It's either, for me, man or ma'am. I do a lot of ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, man. That's cool. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I have found that there have been circumstances that I have said, thank you, man, or yes, ma'am, and immediately been unsure as to the gender of the person that I was talking to. Not that I care that much, because I can't help it, but I don't want to cause anybody any personal distress. I have no interest in that. I'll call you whatever you want me to call you, whatever. I mean, I'll call you whatever I want to call you, frankly. But these people that wait for a reason to get ticked off about it, that lie in wait and then do videos about it online, and you can see some of these videos, I want one of these people in my life. Because I hope that I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow, like this Delta employee who is being recorded at a gate in Atlanta,
What
Georgia.
about when a Delta employee misgenders you intentionally?
While he's talking, you're talking.
You just misgendered me again.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Gotcha.
Both of you have.
Wasn't intentional, but if you want to take it personal, that's also.
Well, she did do it intentionally twice.
You're talking to me too.
You said she and then you said he.
You're being condescending, and if you want to continue, I have Port Authority escort you out the building right this moment. If you want to play that game with me.
Okay.
Would you like to continue 3 days before Christmas? I really don't mind.
I'm good. I'll just put this on.
Nip that right in the bud.
You're being condescending right now. It wasn't intentional. If you want to make it personal, we can make it personal, and I can escort you out of the building. You let me know. Let's go. More of this, please, into my veins. I would love to see it. Here's Mac Morey in the news on Super Talk 99.7 WT and Matt Murphy and for Brian Wilson on The Drive.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 49 degrees. It's been a mostly cloudy day on Music Row. We'll get you that latest traffic report to let you know how the roads are on your way home, plus a weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes, starting with the Israel-Hamas war. A general with Israel Defense Forces expects the ground offensive in Gaza to continue for months. And as Justin Finch explains, Israelis with family members are still missing and are pleading with the government to get their loved ones back.
In Tel Aviv, heartbroken families of civilian hostages held in Gaza pleading for the Israeli government's help to free their loved ones. The crowd amassing outside the Israeli Defense Ministry complex and propping up hourglasses they say represent time running out for captives held in Gaza since the Hamas October 7th terrorist attack on Israel.
And the key advisor, Ron Dermer, who's the Minister for Strategic Affairs in Netanyahu's government in Israel, is meeting this afternoon with administrative official Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at the White House. Crime right now in Tennessee. A woman was shot in the face over Christmas weekend by her ex-boyfriend. Officials say this happened after an argument over the relationship ending. It was at a home on Charles E. Davis Boulevard. 24-year-old DeQuantre Devon Strong allegedly fired 4 to 6 shots in this incident. Strong told officers that he didn't mean to hit her, and the whole thing was caught on security footage. She was hit in the left side of the face. He's been charged with criminal homicide. And in Oklahoma, a woman says she'll continue to visit her son's gravesite despite what happened last weekend. Jim Ryan says the grieving mother was the victim of a crime in a cemetery.
After decorating her son's grave, Christine Goins walked back to her car to find that her purse was gone from the front seat. Within minutes, she says, the thieves were at work.
They had gone to a Walmart and tried to use my debit card.
Luckily, she'd called to cancel it minutes earlier. The cemetery has no security cameras, and Police Sergeant Jordan Sawyer says catching the car burglars won't be easy.
A lot of times, these are crimes of opportunity.
And back here in the States, crime over the holiday weekend in the Volunteer State. A woman was shot in the leg at the Tanger Outlets in Antioch. This was on Christmas Eve around 5 o'clock. The shooting happened right outside of the stores. A man and a woman were arguing with one another. The man then shot the woman and then ran to his car. Police said there are strong leads. This investigation is still very active. Security and police have not said if a person is yet in custody. And an apology from Kanye West for all of his controversial anti-Semitic comments. Jason Nathanson.
The apology, written in Hebrew and posted to Kanye West's social media account, saying he sincerely apologizes to the Jewish community, calling his comments over the past year or so, quote, unplanned outbursts. He says it was not his intention to hurt or demean, and he deeply regrets any pain he may have caused, and he's committed to making amends and promoting unity. The apology comes 11 days after a live stream rant that featured more anti-Semitic comments.
Who got the hospitals? These are Zionists. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Jesus Christ, Hitler, yay.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is The Drive, but no Brian Wilson. Matt Murphy subbing in for Brian today and all week long. It is 5:07, and a good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased to be with you until 7 o'clock tonight. It is live and local. It is information-fueled and opinion-driven on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back in the newsroom, Mac Morey, running the controls and, generally speaking, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. Young Chris Weber is behind the glass, and we appreciate you being a part of the show as well. 615-737-9986. At any point that you wish to opine to the masses, you may do so by those telephone numbers. You can also hit us up on social media. Primarily, our super text line is up and running, 615-737-9986. You can also follow me on a variety of social media platforms. There's, of course, X. I call it the X Machine, at Matt Murphy Show. That's where you'll primarily find me hanging out in the cesspool that is social media. You can also find me on Facebook and some other platforms as well. You can look us up on Super Talk TV, always up and running. Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Find us there for you masochists in the listening audience that want to see what this looks like. Well, this is what this looks like. I've got to do something about this beard. It's just
a lot of gray in there.
It's
like 75, 80% gray.
What I can't figure out is what I'm doing wrong with the laying down of the hairs. I should know this. I'm a 50-year-old man, but I've never really fashioned myself as someone who has the ability to grow an actual beard. As someone who can grow a beard and it looks good on you, do you put product in that?
No.
You put nothing in there?
Nothing.
It just lays down on its own?
Yeah, what else would
I'm
it do?
talking about what this is doing. You see what this is doing here?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a little long.
So you think I should trim it?
Yeah.
But it's so sparse. If I trim it, then it looks like
well, that's the debate.
That's genetics.
Yeah. I had an issue, and this was before you came along. I used to have a big, long beard, like a ZZ Top type beard.
Oh, wow.
And I had some struggles with that because it's like, okay, it would get very unruly as it's growing out.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I would have to kind of try to brush it because it would get really, fluffy like.
I kind of try to do the same. You don't do anything,
but I never put anything in it though. I don't think I did anyway.
I'm struggling. Will it get better? Is it like long hair? You go through the period where it's just awkward and stupid.
I don't think so.
This isn't getting any better. That's what you're saying.
I think that's what you're going to get. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Well, that tells me there's a razor in my future.
That may be your best solution.
One of the many, many, many Harry's razor blades that I have under the cabinet somewhere because I keep forgetting to That's how they get you. You ever done the Harry
the subscription?
Yeah.
And they keep sending them, and
they send you a notice, and I never see the notice. It's always buried under 100 different other emails. Yeah. But they send you a notice the day before they ship it. Hey, if you don't want this, click, and you don't have to have it. And I always forget, and so I always get it. So I have about 167 Harry's razor blades under my bathroom cabinet.
Yeah, put them to work.
For anybody, yeah, I probably should. All right, let's get to work with the news of the day, as there is a lot going on. I will get into the Israeli-Hamas latest. It's a bit depressing. The UN had a vote regarding the cessation of hostilities, although there was no call for a ceasefire, rightly so. If you want a ceasefire, you can get a ceasefire. It's pretty simple. Hamas, turn over the hostages. We'll talk ceasefire. Until then, no ceasefire conversation. So more on that as the program unfolds. We've discussed border security and the fact that immigration policy and border security are not the same thing. We'll get into some of that if you so desire and if time allows. We also, I would note, we live in a world where the leftists in the mainstream media, and I mean your typical alphabet soups, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, and the like. Of course, hashtag Never CNN. I call them hashtag Never CNN because I do not believe that you should support nor watch that garbage network. It's a garbage network full of garbage people. I consider it to be an occupational hazard to watch so you don't have to. I do the same thing with the New York Times. I do the same thing with the Washington Post. I'll read these garbage articles so you don't have to, and I'll relate what you need to know from them. It's like a little gift from media. Political leftists in the mainstream media want you to believe that we live in a world where Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is a bad father and Joe Biden is a good one. And here's what I mean. If you've not seen the hit piece story that was done on Mike Johnson regarding his daughter, his then teenage daughter. My goodness gracious. So ABC did the hit piece in which they related a story originally done by a German television station. The story was done in 2015 by German TV, and I want to read you some of the details of this story as written by ABC News. Headline: Speaker Mike Johnson, and daughter were profiled attending Purity Ball in 2015 German TV news segment. The unearthed segment is the latest example of Johnson's deeply held views. What? What does that mean? Everything about this article, by the way, and I'm going to inflect the tone in which I think it was written as I relate it to you because I think it deserves it. The tone of this article is shadowy and mysterious and dastardly. And what is going on here? This is very unsettling. This is uncomfortable. Here we go. Years before Mike Johnson would ascend to the number 2 in the presidential line of succession, a German television news outlet profiled the future Speaker of the House and his then teenage daughter. This looks like a wedding, a news reporter says in German in a 2015 NTV news segment that was unearthed by ABC News. You see, they tried to bury it. You see, they tried to bury it. Language means something, folks, and this is the way that the political left operates. They use language as a bludgeon or a weapon against you, and in this case, against this man's Christian faith. More in a moment. A 2015 TV news segment that was unearthed by ABC News. The news reporter goes on, but they are not bride and groom. They are rather father and daughter. The reporter adds, referring to Johnson and his then 13-year-old daughter, Hannah. So he compares what is going on at this purity ball to a wedding. That's the German television station doing that, not Mike Johnson and not his daughter. The German news segment documented Johnson and his family preparing for and then attending a purity ball, a controversial formal dance event popular among some Christian conservatives that gained notoriety in the early 2000s. As a typical event, fathers and their teenage daughters dress in formal ball attire for a night that involves dinner and dancing and culminates with a daughter signing a pledge to her father to abstain from dating and remain sexually abstinent until marriage. Shock of shocks. ABC News then continues. The news segment examines purity balls and the general purity movement among conservative Christians through the lens of the Johnson family. It features clips of Johnson and his daughter at the ball with numerous other father-daughter pairs and shows Johnson's daughter vowing to him to live a life of purity as well as her signing a pledge. Johnson, his wife Kelly, and his daughter participated in interviews for the segment, which was posted on the German news channel's website. And then subsequently, of course, buried by someone. Because it had to be buried in order for ABC News to have to unearth it. In one brief clip, Johnson's wife, Kelly Johnson, a Christian counselor, told the German news outlet, we don't talk to her about contraception. Sex before marriage is simply out of the question. Johnson, little-known congressman, before being elected Speaker of the House in October, did not respond for a request for comment from ABC News. And then they go on to talk about purity balls and their purpose. Purity balls have faced increased scrutiny from both inside and outside the Christian community, ranging from criticism that the practice places too much of a burden on young women to accusations that the balls themselves objectify young girls. I'm not going to be lectured by a news organization that can't tell you what a woman is and what a woman isn't. I'm not going to be lectured by a news organization that regularly, a platform like ABC and by extension Disney, that regularly objectifies 8-year-old girls in these gross, disgusting beauty pageants that came into popular parlance in the 2000s and 2010s. I'm not about to be lectured by an organization that can't seem to manage to understand which pronouns to use for which human being. And here's a question. Which is more of a burden on a 14-year-old girl? The idea of saving your virtue for marriage or carrying a baby? These same media outlets would tell you, oh, that's not a big burden, just have an abortion, no biggie, right? It's amazing the mindset of the political left, that they are somehow suggesting to you through this article, and I don't think it's unintentional, it is quite intentional, that they are suggesting to you that there's something wrong with Mike Johnson, that he was raising his daughter and has raised his children in a Christian house. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, Christianity is under attack over and over and over again. We've seen it. And I want to connect the dots on this story and another real thing that's been happening over the past several days. And that is this concept that pro-Palestinians are in the United States of America and even in the state of Tennessee. They are going after our Christian faith and telling us that we're not allowed to celebrate our Christianity and our most holy of days because of the war going on in Israel, in the Gaza Strip. Wait a minute. What do we have to? I mean, I understand that we do very much have something to do with it, considering the region of the world that it's in, considering the religious significance of Jerusalem and that general Middle Eastern region. I understand that. So understand the nature of my question. What do we have to do with that? I mean, I thought your issue, Muslims, Hamas, were with the Jewish people. But now you seem to have a problem with us celebrating Christian faith because you attacked the Jews? Let me get this straight. So Hamas, a Muslim group in political and military control of the Gaza Strip, they attack Israel. They slaughter some 1,400 innocent Israelis. Most, if not many of them, most of them Jewish. Some were not, but most of them Jewish. They slaughter them because of their stated mission purpose, and that is to eliminate the Jewish people from the face of the earth. It's in their charter. So you attack the Israelis, and they counterattack in order to eliminate the threat against their people. And somehow it's the responsibility of American Christians to stop all of this. What? Did I miss something? I believe that the story concerning Mike Johnson and his faith and the stories that we've seen, attacks against Christianity, they're interrelated. And the mainstream media is complicit in it. Now, this same media organization that would suggest to you that this is a controversial subject, to expect that your 13-year-old will abstain from sex, these same media outlets will happily explain to you how good of a father Joe Biden has been to Hunter. You know, he's just a father that loves his son. He couldn't help it. He can't help that his son likes hookers and blow. I mean, what father doesn't love his child and want to guide his child through the awfulness of his addictions? Joe Biden, what a good daddy. Mike Johnson, weirdo. That's your mainstream media for you in a nutshell. Hey, in a moment, I'll tell you about a robot that attacked a human at a Tesla plant. And I'm not making that up. It's 5:21 on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Specifically regarding precision ag, this is a movement or an initiative that Pheasants and Quail Forever is taking on where we can help farmers take advantage of the data they collect and during harvest, during planting season, and use that to identify areas in the field that are underproducing for whatever reason. Maybe it's shade, water, there's perennial wet spots, odd areas that are just hard to farm. Farm equipment's getting big now, and it's hard to farm some of these smaller areas. And so these areas that the yield isn't high enough to exceed the input costs, we're losing money on those acres. So are there some alternate land use covers, wildlife covers that we can use and put on the ground that benefit wildlife but also benefit the bottom line? There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of conservation programs and conservation practices out there that can benefit the land, and they require management. And so some people might be familiar with the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP. And that is a program administered by USDA for farmers and landowners to take those certain areas out of production and return them to a wildlife cover beneficial to different wildlife.
We started taking non-productive acres years ago and putting them in CRP, and seeing a great benefit of that, not only for wildlife, but erosion control and the money side of it. You know, we have to make a living to stay in business just like everybody else. You know, if you've got non-productive acres that you're losing money on, and you can get something out of them, plus benefit the soil from erosion, plus benefit the wildlife.
President Biden meeting with the president of Mexico tomorrow to discuss the surge at the southern border, a fatal crash today in Tennessee, and FDA requesting more eye drops because some of them, they're just not safe. Nearly 120 million of them. We'll tell you about it. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, you got me hooked, Maury. I want to know the eye drop story. That's the one. You cast the line and reel me right in, baby. Reel me right in. I'm waiting anxiously. 5 minutes we have to wait for that story. 5:25 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. Chris Weber's behind the glass. Mac Morey, the aforementioned, in the news closet. It is 5:25.
Oh, yeah.
It is my understanding that at this time, on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, Brian Wilson acquiesces the microphone. He takes a step aside and he allows a moment to delve into the mind of Mac Morey in a segment that he calls Mac Morey's Wide, Wide World of Sports. Poor guy. Was an accomplished ski jumper. That guy. Nobody knows that. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the wild. No, they just know it from that thing that you probably never saw before this segment, right? Did you go look at it?
I've looked at it. Yes.
It's awful. Oh, God. You think that guy's dead. Anyway, it is time for Mac Morey's Wide, Wide World of Sports. It's my understanding, now, Weber, help me out here, that Brian normally kind of leads into a subject matter with Mac and allows him to kind of elaborate, utilizing his sports expertise in the process, correct?
Well, no, actually, Mac just usually brings whatever the topic that he wants to discuss.
Oh, does he now?
that particular day. Yeah.
All right.
Usually, yeah.
Okay, dokie. Then, Matt, what topic would you like to discuss?
Well, I feel like you have a topic that you want to discuss, considering the way that you introed that.
No, far be it from me to deviate from the regular format of the segment that Brian Wilson has set down, and ever popular. McMurray's Wild
Of
Run
course,
World.
award-winning.
I mean, all right. So I'm just going to go ahead and just open the door to any topic of conversation having to do with how awful the Kansas City Chiefs are.
No, I was going to veer away. I was going to. Yeah, no, my Chiefs are in utter dismay right now. 4 out of the last 6 they've lost. But and if we have time, hopefully we don't, we can talk a little bit about that. But first, I'm going to start with the hometown team. We'll get to that later.
Okay, sure.
Tennessee Titans, they had a loss as well. But this one was at least close. It was well fought. There seemed to be actual football being played in this game. The Tennessee Titans know what sport they're playing. It's good to see that. 3 out of the last 4 games they have lost, but by combined 9 points, these 3 losses come from, all by 3. So they're playing well. They're playing to their opponent's level, just not necessarily coming out on top here.
So I find myself in a conundrum that many Tennessee Titans find themselves in.
I love this.
You know where I'm going.
Yes,
and
where I'm going to.
I see hope.
Yes.
I think the defense shows us a lot. The defense is good.
The defense has some really, really good pieces, especially in the front 7.
And
they're well coached.
I think Will Levis has shown us enough that we believe that he is a quarterback that we can believe in moving forward.
Yep.
I think that D-Hop's presence on the team is helping out Treylon Burks, helping out the other wide receivers. Spears in the backfield lets us know that regardless of what decision is made by the front office with regard to the King, that there's a future in the backfield.
Tajay Spears is a great
32
rookie running back.
Is a great running back, and he's going to be there for a long time down the road. That said, I don't mind the loss.
No, yep,
that's
exactly right, Matt.
I mean, I hate it. So
it sucks at the time. Yes, right now, 3 out of the last 4, you're going, wow, this month has been terrible of football. Are you kidding me? All 3 close losses. But then you go to Tankathon. Then you go to tankathon.com. You look at the NFL draft order and you go, wow.
What?
That's an actual website?
What?
Yeah, Tankathon. You can look at, any draft order ever right now, and NBA, NFL, NHL, and see where you're at on the big board. And Titans, a couple weeks ago, they were at 9, around 10. They got up to 8. Now they're at 7.
Ooh.
And they can easily get up to, probably 5, but maybe 4. I mean, they can get a top 5 pick. And so for the Titans, and I know Titans fans are going to just hate this, but playing well and maybe coming out a little short is best case scenario. Like you said, Murphy, show those signs of hope and progression in this roster, in this young talent. Show some of the signs of what the future can hold, but keep that draft pick good because there's some really nice talent at the front of this draft that could really help out this team.
It's such a weird place to be as a fan of a team where I don't mind that they lost, but if I knew they were intentionally doing that,
that's different.
That's different.
That's different.
It's totally different.
That's different. And they are not. They're trying to win these football games.
No, of course they are. Mike Vrabel. I mean,
he would never do that.
He would never do that.
Couldn't pay him enough money to do that.
I mean, he learned from the man, Bill Belichick. Did you see that, by the way? The Belichick meltdown?
No.
Good for Belichick.
What did he do?
He got caught on a hot mic screaming at the ref that they didn't give them time. That they got penalized for something or another. And they were leaving. They were going to a commercial break. And he's just screaming, "You didn't give us time to set up. You didn't give us time to." The guy's won 4 games all season, and he not stopped coaching once. Good for him. Vrabel's from that school.
Man, when Andy Reid did that, he got lambasted. But yeah, it's all good. Yeah, no worries.
Now we're fast running out of time.
I know. I can't get you started on that.
Just tell me about the helmet throw real quick. What do you think?
Travis Kelce? Yeah, it's you can't do that as a leader on the football team. If anyone doesn't know, Travis Kelce, in the midst of this just terrible performance from the Kansas City Chiefs offense, in particular, by the way, the offense is atrocious. He goes off in the middle of that game and chucks his helmet multiple yards on the sideline, hits a bench. There's people, not players, not wearing helmets. This helmet ricochets in midair. Luckily, didn't hit anyone. Now,
good for Reed, by the way.
Oh,
you see what he did in the aftermath?
Yeah, a little shoulder bump, like, hey.
Well, and they were bringing his helmet back to him.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody had picked up his helmet, and they were about to and Reed stopped him. He said, "No, don't give him. You don't give that man his helmet."
No.
And he kind of got in his face and kind of gave him a little shoulder bumps. Like, what are you doing?
Never seen him get physical, and it wasn't physical like pushing him, or just a shoulder bump. Like, hey, man, Come on.
You're leader of this football team.
Come on.
Act like it.
You're a two-time champion. Let's
Come
go.
on.
So, yeah, no, he's done that before. It doesn't make it okay. He needs to really rail it in.
It's kind of what we're talking about with the losing thing. Like, it's okay that you're losing because it's going to benefit us in the long run. But if I thought you were doing it intentionally, that would change things. I want that level of emotion from Travis Kelce.
Yes.
I want him to care that much.
Please.
But you can't do that.
You got to channel that differently. You got to figure out another way to channel that and get people to go with you and ride with you. Like, hey, let's turn this into a positive. Come on.
So you guys are playing the Bengals?
Yep, Bengals this Sunday.
We're going to be Bengals fans?
Stop that right now. No.
And this has been McMurray's wide world of sports. Take off the sports hat, put on the news hat. It's 5:32 on Super Talk.
.532, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 48 degrees right now in Nashville. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way, just a few minutes ahead. Biden administration officials meeting with Mexico's president tomorrow. They're urging that nations need to work harder at stopping the surge of migrants at the U.S. southern border. Andy Field on the expectations of that meeting.
Mexico's president admitting there's a price tag for keeping more migrants from crossing from Mexico to the U.S. President Obrador saying he wants the U.S. to send more development aid to migrants' home countries, giving them an incentive to stay where they are rather than making the dangerous trip through Mexico to the U.S. Mexico also wants the Biden administration to reduce sanctions against Cuba and Venezuela to make living conditions better in those nations.
And in just 5 days last week, Border Patrol processed nearly 50,000 migrants who entered the United States illegally, with daily apprehensions surpassing 10,000 thrice. That's up from 6,400 average last month. A fatal crash here in Tennessee today. The Tennessee Highway Patrol investigating this collision. It left one dead. Happened this morning on I-65 near mile marker 60 in Williamson County past I-840. The crash completely closed all northbound lanes for some time. No details in this crash have been released yet. And nearly 120 million of us use eye drops, and the FDA worries not all of those products are safe. Andy Field tells us what the agency wants Congress to do.
The FDA reports that store-bought eye drops are not always made in clean, well-cared-for factories. It's asking Congress for the power to order recalls and force eye drop factory inspections. Experts say adding regulations won't help without giving the FDA more money and inspectors to do the job. They recalled 24 eye drop brands this fall after finding unsanitary conditions at a plant in India. It was the first time the FDA had ever visited that site.
And that is the latest news, weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The drive continues. It's 5:38. Pleased you've joined us. Thank you. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative. My name is Matt Murphy. Normally, you hear me from noon until 3. I'm sliding over to the drive with Brian Wilson for the duration of 2023. We'll be here through Friday. No Chris Webber on Friday. We'll make do. I think Mac's here for the entire week. Are you not, Mac Morey? Is that correct? Are you here for the entire week?
Yeah.
Would the dynamic of that change if I said to Jason, "Who day?" What does that mean?
No, we don't say that. No, you don't want to say that.
Who?
FCC regulations.
Who stole which from whom? I mean, it's who dat in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, I think it's who dat.
And it's who day.
Who day
What the
really
hell's
caught
that?
on. I don't know. That's what they
Who
say.
says that?
Cincinnati. That's the jungle. Who day?
Oh.
The Bengals, or as Mac Morey calls them, the Bangles.
Bengals?
I've noticed.
Am I saying it wrong?
I thought they walked like an Egyptian.
Who day? The Bengals.
Bengals.
Great video. This is the part of the show that I'm starting to get chippy because I was up all night. And we'll be up all night tonight as well. So, Mac Morey will be with us for the duration of the week, right? But no Friday.
No Friday.
So I'm the only one of the trifecta that's going to be here on Friday. Why the hell am I here on Friday? Isn't Friday a company holiday?
Yeah. That's why I'm not here.
I'm here in the morning, but...
Take it up with Mr. Mandis.
I'm here with Cameron Smith.
Birthday boy. Dan Mandis.
Birthday boy.
Birthday boy. Like I said earlier in the show, I would like to re-up it in case Dan missed it. Dan does not look a day over 60, which is nice. Good for you. Have I told you the one about the machine that decided to attack its creator? It sounds like a good opening for a movie, and there have been plenty of movies in which the machine did turn on its creator or its boss, its owner. Well, in this story, a Tesla software engineer suffered serious injury. Now, see, here's the thing. I don't like aspects of this story because I think we're trying to turn this into, Attack of the Machines, or what was the Maximum Overdrive by Stephen King. Because the beginning of the story, it uses a lot of language. By the end of the story, you'll see. All right. Tesla software engineer suffered serious injury when he was attacked by a malfunctioning robot on the floor of the electric car manufacturer's factory in Austin, Texas. Witnesses told the information last month that the robot, which was designed to move aluminum car parts, pinned the engineer and, quoting now, sank its metal claws into his back and arm, leaving a trail of blood along the floor. The robot saw the opportunity, seized on the opportunity. I'm going to get me a human, and he got one. Screams. The engineer was programming software that controls robots, whose job it is to cut car parts from freshly cast pieces of aluminum. According to the story, while two of the robots were disabled so the engineer and his crew could work on the machine, the third was inadvertently left on, resulting in the, quoting now, attack that happened 2 years ago, but that we're just hearing about now. Maybe that's why Elon Musk warned us that AI would be the destruction of humanity. According to the news site originally reporting the attack, it obtained an injury report that was submitted to federal officials as well as to health authorities in Travis County. The engineer suffered, quote, a laceration or open wound on his left hand. Now, remember, at the beginning of the story, we were told that this software engineer suffered serious injury when he was attacked by a robot. By the end of the story, here's the line that I would like to circle for you. The injury was apparently not severe enough to require the employee to take time off from work. Well, that doesn't sound serious. Tesla declined to comment. Injury report submitted to the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, alleged that nearly 1 out of every 21 workers at the Texas factory got hurt last year. Holy crap. Is that a lot? Wow. It feels like a lot. 1 out of every 20. Injury reports submitted. In the automobile industry, the median injury rate last year was 1 out of every 30 workers. So I guess that's not too much out of whack. Several current and former Tesla employees employed at the factory told the Information, I guess that's the organization that originally reported it. It's called The Information. that the company regularly cut corners on construction, maintenance, and operations in a manner that placed them at risk. So the headline of the story would indicate to you that there was some sort of awareness involved in this. I don't think that was the case. I think...
Like the robot asked if he knew Sarah Connor before the attack.
Are you Sarah Connor? I must kill you. Yeah, get on if you want to live. That's what the thing said to him. I don't think that's what's going on here. I think maybe the robot was just doing the robot's job and the dude got in the way. And the robot don't know nothing from human beings. But it reminded me the willingness that we have, and I have not caught up or kept up with AI. Maybe it's because I don't have the willingness to sink my teeth into it and go to the depths that I know that I need to go in order to fully understand it. How far we've gotten with AI technology and whether or not I buy into the, and you guys can school me, and please do if you want to at 615-737-9986, either through text or call. But I don't know that I've formulated an opinion as to whether or not this is a real and present danger to the human beings on Earth. There are some people that I have great respect for. Elon Musk is one of them that says, yes, that we are reaching a point where if machines gain, if they gain a certain level of awareness, if they become self-aware, they know that they were created by human beings, like we have developed a self-awareness that I don't think any other creature on Earth has. And I would suggest to you that there's a strong religious component involved in why we have ability to reason and why we have that level of self-awareness that no other creature has. But as an individual that has dabbled into simulation theory, I would suggest to you that once you get to the point that the machines have self-awareness, it sounds like science fiction, but I guess there's a danger there. If the Frankenstein monster determines that it is in the monster's best interest to kill the maker, then why wouldn't they do that? It's not as if these machines can. I don't know. Once again, I don't want to pretend that I know something that I don't know because I've not invested the time or the energy to research it. But the suggestion has been made that you can create a machine that has a certain level of a moral code, whether that has to be literally coded into the machine or not. And if you find yourself in front of a machine that doesn't have a certain moral code, then what happens then? But for whatever reason, reading this story about the Tesla factory worker that was attacked by a robot that, one, using the word attack indicates that there's an awareness of what you're doing, and I don't think that's the case. There was an industry accident, and ultimately the robot dug its claws into the back and arms of a human being. For whatever reason, and I don't know why, this reminded me of an art installation that happened in 2016 or 2017 in New York at the Guggenheim Museum called I Can't Help Myself. Have you ever heard of this art installation? It's called Can't Help Myself. And it was a piece of art that apparently greatly emotionally affected the people that saw it. I never saw it. I've seen videos of it. The way that we choose to anthropomorphize machines, and I do this with my dogs all the time. All of my dogs have different voices. I anthropomorphize my dogs, and so I give them human thoughts, and we do this with machines now too. This art installation called Can't Help Myself, if you've never heard about it, it was a machine. It was an arm with a big squeegee on the end of it. The robot arm was programmed to leak hydraulic fluid. It was designed to slowly leak hydraulic fluid that is constantly leaking out of its base. That hydraulic fluid was required to keep the arm running, or at least we thought. More on that in a second. So the robot knows that if too much of the hydraulic fluid escapes, that it will die, that it will no longer function. It is programmed to continuously pull back the hydraulic fluid so that it doesn't die. The programmers also gave the robot in downtime, so if it has all of the fluid relatively contained near its base, it was programmed to interact with the audience, to see audience members and do little dances or do little twirls with its squeegee. Over time, the fluid leaked so much so that it was unable to do the dances anymore. All it could do is furiously attempt to contain a fluid that it had no possibility of containing. By design, it was going to lose fluid and eventually die. And apparently, when this event happened at the Guggenheim Museum, there were people that were incredibly emotional. They were weeping because you're looking at a creature, and they had anthropomorphized it to the point, you're looking at a creature that is desperately attempting to do something that it has no possibility of doing. I'll tell you why it affected me. Ultimately, it was determined the individual artist, the installation ran on electricity. It did not run on hydraulics. But the point was, and the artist, they made no secret of this, the machine didn't know that. The machine thought that it ran on hydraulics, which was the point. And it speaks to, I think it, and I don't want to get too deep here the day after Christmas, but I think it speaks to the finite nature of life on Earth, that we fight so hard to accomplish certain things, whether it be in our work life or even in our familial affairs or in our friendship groups. We fight so hard to align ourselves in a certain way or do certain things. And ultimately, a lot of what we fight for on a regular basis is an exercise in futility. Anyway, I would encourage you to look up the installation. Can't Help Myself if you've never seen it. I don't know why the attack on the dude at the Tesla plant reminded me of that, but it did. It is 5:50. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call? Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
Airstrikes in Gaza, a Tennessee high schooler dead, a war in Ukraine update, and respiratory illnesses taking an uptick around the nation. Those stories at the top of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Maury. It is 5:55 right now on the drive. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson this afternoon. Would love to hear from you on this day after Christmas. If you have any late Christmas goodies that you want to get off your chest, come on. Donald Trump got a goodie bag for Christmas. I mean, it really was. It was a bag full of treats for the holidays, such as the Colorado case and Jack Smith losing at the Supreme Court. We will discuss in the next hour of the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. This Colorado thing is fascinating to me. Liberals they can't even do it. The political left on mainstream media, they are desperately trying to cling to something, anything that would give them a semblance of hope that they can dispatch of this time around, dispatch of Donald Trump, the soon-to-be Republican nominee for the presidency of the United States of America, once again. And so they're trying to figure out how they can cling to what is an obviously wrongly decided Colorado Supreme Court in a 4-3 decision. If you did not notice, maybe you were off much like I was. I was off last week, so I was not able to comment on this. I have some commentary on it in the final hour of the show. But before we get to that, I love Babylon Bee. It gives me more delight than I probably deserve. And there was a story out of the Babylon Bee. If you're not familiar, Babylon Bee is a better version of The Onion. Onion used to be good before they became, and I understand that The Onion is kind of to the left, what Babylon Bee is to the right. But I feel like Babylon Bee calls balls and strikes a little more fairly with their satire. It's a satire and parody website. This headline struck me. Man in critical condition after hearing slightly differing viewpoint. Glendale, California. A man was rushed to the hospital yesterday after encountering a slightly different viewpoint than his own. Shortly before 12:30 p.m., Glendale PD officers responded to a 911 call at the Java Lounge Coffee House in the 900 block of North Emerson Road. They found a person who had collapsed in shock and went to the station for help. Witnesses say the man was having a casual conversation about politics with another patron when the minutely opposing viewpoint was expressed. They're both Democrats, Bernie supporters, said Janice Houston, a barista at the Java Lounge. Then the guy he was talking to said he had some issues with abortion and thinks there should be at least a couple of limitations put on the practice. That's when the man seized up and began foaming at the mouth. It was terrible. 4 other bystanders were also emotionally injured by the moderately divergent opinion, but were not hospitalized. The man is being kept stable on ideology support at St. Francis Medical Center, surrounded by friends and family who agree with him 100% of the time on every single issue. The man who suggested the slightly differing opinion fled the scene. Anyone with information is asked to alert the authorities. That from the Babylon Bee yesterday. I love it. I think it was a regurgitation of another story that they had done several years ago. But does it not reflect perfectly, encapsulate? I mean, that's what the best parody or satire does. It perfectly encapsulates the ridiculousness of the world that we live in around us. And it is real. I mean, we were telling the story a minute ago about pronouns and people who think that they somehow have some sort of overarching authority to demand that you comport yourself in a manner of their choosing. And if you deviate whatsoever from that, they'll try to destroy you, cancel you through the culture. That's what cancel culture is all about. We're canceling this hour, moving on to news, and we're getting to the 6 o'clock hour in moments. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and The Drive would love to hear from you, 615-737-9986. One more hour to go. Stand by for news.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 45 degrees in Nashville. Latest forecast and a traffic report on the way. Israeli airstrikes pummeling Gaza today as Israel warns residents to evacuate. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledging the war will continue until the end as Hamas rejects an Egyptian-brokered ceasefire deal. Here's Britt Clinette.
ABC sources saying that Hamas rejected a proposal, so certainly some concerns that multiple fronts may open up. Gallant, the defense minister here, he said that they're fighting many fronts, including Lebanon, including Iran, including Yemen. So certainly concerns growing all around the world that this could reach far and wide.
And this all comes as a top advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is visiting at the White House today discussing the future of Gaza. In Tennessee, Fox 17 reporting that a freshman wrestler at Dixon County High School died in an accident while a team trip to Florida was on his way to Orlando when Jalen Harper passed away. He was also a part of the football team at Dixon County High. The school is going to have counselors on hand for students and teachers when classes resume after the winter break, and a memorial fund will be set up by the school as well. The war in Ukraine blowing up a large Russian ship in Crimea. Here's Anastasia Katera.
The Ukrainian Air Force saying cruise missiles successfully targeted a large Russian landing ship in Crimea, with Russia's defense ministry later confirming the ship had been hit. Multiple videos circulating online show a massive explosion. At least one crew member was killed and at least one person was injured, according to an official statement from the head of occupied Crimea. The ship's crew consists of 87 people. Ukrainian President Zelensky saying in a statement, there will be no peaceful place for the occupiers in Ukraine.
And a big increase in respiratory illnesses across the country. This comes as flu and RSV levels are elevated. COVID hospitalizations also trending up. Dr. Darian Sutton explains why.
Vaccine rates, unfortunately, are not as high as we would hope. Approximately only 18.5% of people have gotten an update in their COVID vaccines. And then, of course, we have this new variant that is likely associated with this increased transmission. And so that should provide some concern as evidence that it might be more likely to transmit from one person to another. But it's not evading our methods of protection, wearing a mask, washing our surfaces, washing our hands, and then, of course, making sure that we're updated on our vaccines.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hello, it is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is The Drive. There is no Brian Wilson. It's always The Drive with Brian Wilson, but Matt Murphy subbing in for Brian this afternoon and all week long. It is 6:05 and a good evening. Hope you're doing well. Roadway's looking good. A lot of folks off this week. A lot of disruption of regular activities this week, but that's okay. We're here for you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Would love to hear from you, 615-737-9986. I have donned my, this would be a toboggan?
That's one name for it, yeah.
That's I like the fact that my cousin got the Georgia colors in there.
That's pretty nice, yeah.
Cousin-in-law made this for me for Christmas. It was one of my...
Cousin-in-law. Is his name Eddie by chance?
No, this was Lizzie.
Oh.
So, pretty much the same deal. Pretty much. Came up in an RV.
You look like you're going to play hacky sack at any moment.
Thanks. That's better than I was accused of earlier. One of our cohorts at the sports station accused me of looking like a drug dealer. Of course, I had it on slightly different. I had it over the ears. I can't do it over the ears with my headphones on.
And you had the sunglasses on, too.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I told him that he could just come to my truck and find out. Anyway, you can listen or you can watch. You can find out what the heck we're talking about on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Find us there, and we'd appreciate you joining in on the conversation. The F&M Bank chat line is up and running. Our chat line is up and running as well, 615-737-9986. That is the Super Text line, and you also have the phone lines available to you as well. So I know that this has been much discussed, but I did not have an opportunity to discuss it or give my take on it. I do not pretend that my take is of great variance to some of the others that you have perhaps heard, but I want to give you an opportunity to opine on it as well, because I do believe that last week Donald Trump got a goodie bag of gifts in his effort to become the 47th president of the United States of America, already being the 45th president of the United States of America. Gift number one came in the form of the Colorado Supreme Court. I have heard some liberals desperate to bend themselves into pretzel-like shapes, justifying the actions of the activist Colorado Supreme Court. But there is simply no justification. I have heard of no legal mind in the United States of America that I have any level of respect for whatsoever that has suggested anything other than a swift, and some have said unanimous, declaration by the United States Supreme Court that the Colorado Supreme Court was wrong in determining that Donald Trump could be legally and constitutionally prevented from being on the ballot as a Republican Party candidate in the state of Colorado. Now, many of you might have heard that their reasoning surrounded their interpretation of the 14th Amendment and their determination that Donald Trump was guilty of a few things that he's never even been charged with. Now, the 14th Amendment was written in the aftermath, and I don't want to belabor you with a history lesson. Most of you already know these things. You're the smartest listeners on planet Earth. But the 14th Amendment, along with the 13th and the 15th, were written and passed in the aftermath of the American Civil War. The 14th Amendment, specifically Section 3 of said same, says this. I'll read it for you directly. Section 3, disqualification from holding office. Now, let me give you the context before I read it. So, what many had seen in Washington, D.C., this was after obviously the bloodiest conflict in American history, considering that all of the individuals that were dying in the conflict were ultimately Americans, some of which wanted to secede from the Union. You had, 600,000 or thereabouts individuals that died in that 4.5-5 year span. In the aftermath of all of that death and destruction, in the aftermath of a group of individuals that had heretofore been in good standing with the Constitution and good standing with the Union, they had determined that they wanted to dissolve their entanglement with said union. They wanted to leave. And the union said, no, you just can't do that. And they had a fight over it. Well, now those same individuals were waltzing back into Washington, D.C. with the expectation that they would resume their duties now that the conflict was over and the Union was preserved, that they would take up, once their states came back into good standing and once they were able to have that representation back in Washington, D.C., it was believed that many of these individuals thought that they could just retake their seats in the House of Representatives, retake their seats in the United States Senate. Without debating the merits of the war and without debating the minute details of said same, it's pretty obvious why this would chafe a number of individuals in Washington, that the rebels, those that wanted to dispatch themselves of the shackles of the Constitution of the United States of America, were now walking back into the Capitol, walking back into Washington, D.C., expected to take up residence and to carry on, quote unquote, as if nothing happened. And they weren't having that. What happened during the American Civil War was obviously a rebellion. What happened during the American Civil War was obviously, depending on which side you on, I'm sure the North would have considered it an insurrection. The South obviously considered it no longer wishing to take part with the North in that union of states. They were seceding, literally. Be that as it may, the 14th Amendment was passed with a Section 3 in it, which said no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or any other state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. In other words, they gave these folks an out, that if you legitimately come back with hat in hand and enough of your former colleagues believe that you have paid whatever penance they believe you need to pay, then they can vote to make you eligible for service again. Most rational human beings understand the nature of this clause in the Constitution of the United States in the 14th Amendment, having to do with civil war or secession or insurrection. Call it what you will. Blood was spilled in an effort to take over government or to secede from said same. I don't know of any rational person that believes that what happened on January 6th was an actual insurrection, an attempt to overtake government. It was a crowd of emotional individuals who ultimately made poor decisions with regard to breaking and entering into an installation that they had no right to be in. They attempted to disrupt a lawful assembly, and they have now been politically persecuted as a result. I don't think there's any question that it is a political persecution by nature when some of these folks have been presented with 2, 3, and 4 year sentences for trespassing. Sadly, the Democrats chose to make it political in order to convince those of us who watched it happen that what we saw wasn't what we thought we saw. What we saw was something very, very different than what we saw. What we saw was an attempt to overthrow the government. It wasn't a riot. It wasn't a group of individuals that allowed their peaceful assembly to devolve into violence. And there was some violence. All right, let's not Pollyanna this thing. There was. Not nearly as much as the liberals would have you believe, but an insurrection, it most certainly was not. But now they're trying to convince you and me, along with the rest of the United States, that Donald Trump not only allowed that to happen, he led it. He was the architect of it. And so the Colorado Supreme Court, using the third section of the 14th Amendment, voted 4-3. It's a liberal court already, and they were split in the matter, to disallow Donald Trump from being on the ballot. It is wholly anti-democratic. The same individual, it's the same groups and organizations that tell us, what is the old Washington Post? Well, it's not old, it's new. Their new slogan, democracy dies in darkness. The same organizations that tell us that democracy dies in darkness are the same organizations that are blowing out the light. They're attempting to stop the democratic process in Colorado and in other states. Democrats would like nothing more than to unilaterally decide who the candidates against them will be. There was a time when I thought this only happened in banana republics or tin-horn dictatorships. And it's happening in the United States of America. Now, thankfully, it will quickly be dispatched of. I'm not going to make too much of something that I think will be a non-conversation 2 weeks from now. For those who don't know the order or the process, the Colorado Supreme Court made this determination, said that Donald Trump was disqualified, unilaterally determined that he was an insurrectionist, despite the fact that he's never been charged with insurrection. He's not even being charged with insurrection by Jack Smith. Not even charged, much less convicted. You see, here in the United States of America, a group of people can't just unilaterally decide that someone is criminally liable or is guilty of a criminal act just on their own, without due process, without a fair and speedy trial. Yet liberals just, da-da-da-da-da. Well, everybody knows he's the insurrectionist. He's an insurrectionist, Matt. You've got to know that. He's an insurrectionist. Well, you don't get to determine that. We have a rule of law. So most of us understand that this will be dispatched of and left to the trash heap of history some 2 weeks from now. But I'll tell you this, it will leave a legacy. And it provides us a roadmap to the manner in which Democrats want to comport themselves moving forward. They get to determine what is politically allowable and what is not, according to them. But it is a gift. What have I always told you? The Democrats will always be guilty of when they think they have a winning plan, a hand, overplaying that hand, and they have done so here. They thought they had something when it came to January 6th. They thought they could contort themselves to blaming Trump, even though they could not get a vote in the United States Senate to convict him on his impeachment over the same acts. So you couldn't even get a political vote determining that what he did was insurrection, yet the state of Colorado is going to supersede even that action and determine that it was on their own. That's the only way that any of this works for them. Best case scenario, the United States Supreme Court unanimously determines that the state of Colorado has overstated its boundaries and has overstepped itself with regard to due process, and that you cannot, on your own, determine what candidates may or may not be presented on a primary or a general election ballot. And even if I were to agree, and this is the most important point to make, for those of you who are squishy on this matter, maybe you're a never-Trumper, maybe you're a squish Democrat, and you listen to this show for your jollies, let me say this. It doesn't matter what you think of Trump as an insurrectionist. It matters that no court, no legal organ, no judge in good standing in any place, in any courtroom in the United States of America has used due process to legally determine that Donald Trump was guilty of insurrection. And don't tell me the Colorado Supreme Court did that, because they did not. They did not give Donald Trump an opportunity to offer a defense. They did not give Donald Trump an opportunity to testify. They did not give Donald Trump an opportunity to call witnesses. They did not give anyone an opportunity to present a defense of his actions on that day. That is not due process. That's a banana republic. That's the wolves deciding what to have for dinner. And it's always the sheep. I know I'm a little late to the party on my position here, but wanted to get it out there because I was unable to do so last week. Lindsay will get to you in just moments. It is The Drive with Brian Wilson. No Brian Wilson today. Matt Murphy in for Brian, 620 on Super Talk. Thank you much, Mac Morey. 624 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and for Brian Wilson and The Drive. We're slowly winding things down. Darkness has set upon the Music City. Hope you're having a good time during the holiday season. Many of you off, and I appreciate that, off from work, your job duties, and I appreciate you listening to the show in spite of the different schedules that you might be experiencing this week. 624. Has anybody watch House of Cards?
I watched probably the first season and a half, maybe, I think. But that's a long time ago.
How many seasons were there? Do you know?
I'm not
off the top of your head?
sure.
I feel like I don't in fact, I know. I don't feel like. I don't understand what happened with Tucker Carlson and Kevin Spacey because I never saw House of Cards. Have you heard about this?
Oh, I haven't heard of that. No.
Okay, apparently, and this is new to me, and you guys can educate me if you want to. Apparently, Kevin Spacey played a character called Frank Underwood, who was a member of the House of Representatives, and I believe he went on to be the Speaker of the House and then eventually Vice President and I think President of the United States in later episodes. And then obviously when all of that stuff happened with Kevin Spacey and the Me Too movement and the accusations, sexual in nature against him, they canned the show and I think tried to kill him off or something. But apparently Kevin Spacey, as the character Frank Underwood, during the run of the show, would give a Christmas Eve message on the format formerly known as Twitter, now the X machine. But obviously he's not done that over the past several years because he's no longer Frank Underwood. The show no longer exists, and he's kind of been somewhat in hiding since all of these accusations against him. I think he's been exonerated over a couple of them. I don't know the details of some of that. That said, they released a new one. And I watched it, and I was very confused because I didn't understand the nature of what was going on. I have since kind of tried to educate myself on what they were doing and what Kevin Spacey did in the old interviews. And if you watch this interview, they kind of try to blend or blur fiction and reality. So he's playing Frank Underwood in House of Cards, and he's being interviewed by Tucker Carlson, who's playing Tucker Carlson. But they never call him Frank Underwood. So there are times when Tucker's asking questions about him being canceled and him being destroyed that you feel like he's asking Kevin Spacey those questions. And Kevin Spacey's responding. He's like, hey, do you watch Netflix anymore? And Kevin Spacey says, and he's using this Southern accent, I probably watch Facebook as much as you watch Fox. It's actually a pretty good interview, even if you don't know what's going on. But I feel like I'm missing something because I've not seen House of Cards. It makes me want to go watch it, I guess.
I'll say this about it. It was very deep into that inside world of politics. Mm-hmm. And he was obviously a big power player in Washington, D.C. But that aside, his character, I mean, he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, just across the board. But he really plays that character of Frank Underwood really, really well.
Because he does evil. Kevin Spacey has always done a really good, likable evil.
Yes. And that is this character
right?
as well. Yeah.
Like, you know that he's a bad person. And I can't reflect on House of Cards, but this sounds like what you're saying. You know he's a bad person. You know you're not supposed to be. Can't help, but he's personable. He pulls you in. You kind of like it.
Yeah.
And is it not? Does he breaks the fourth wall a bit and talks directly to us, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the concept.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I might have to go back and see it. In the interview, Kevin Spacey and Carlson commiserated over their experiences being ousted by their respective networks. Kevin Spacey then goes on to claim that, and I have no idea if this is true or not, that, you know when you start up Netflix, it goes, da-dong.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Spacey claims that he invented that. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but he makes the claim. So I feel like I'm missing out on something, a little bit of something, but for those of you who were fans of House of Cards, I was told that I should watch it. And no, I was told I have to watch it. And the best way to get me to not do something is to tell me I have to do something.
Yeah.
So I never did. But maybe I'll go back and give it a look. Later, I mentioned this later when he was asked if he still watches Netflix. Spacey told Tucker, probably as much as you watch Fox. It's bizarre that they decided to publicly cut ties with me on allegations alone. allegations that have now been proven to be false. Once again, he's acting as Frank Underwood, but this doesn't sound like it. It's bizarre that they decided to publicly cut ties with me on allegations alone, allegations that have now been proven false, because I don't think there's any question. Netflix exists because of me. I put them on the map, and they tried to put me in the ground. Spacey was booted in 2017. Obviously, man, has it been that long ago?
Yeah.
6 years ago. Faced multiple sexual harassment allegations, including from members of the Netflix show itself. So he has been, and I'm just reading from the article from The Hill here, Spacey was acquitted of sexual assault charges he faced at a trial in the United Kingdom this past July. A New York jury months earlier found him not liable for battery in a civil lawsuit brought against him by an individual by the name of Anthony Rapp, who has alleged that Spacey made sexual advances on him in the 1980s. Last year, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge ruled Spacey and his production companies had to pay the makers of House of Cards $30 million due to losses as a result of his firing. An arbitrator found Spacey violated his contract's demands for professional behavior. But he's never been convicted criminally of any illegal act. But, I feel like I'm missing out on something. A lot of you have mentioned it. I watched it, caught a little bit of it, kind of understood what was going on. Makes me want to go back and watch House of Cards. It's 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mucho interaction on the super text line. I'll get to some of your thoughts, comments, and questions coming up in just a moment as we continue on the drive. Matt Murphy with you all week, 6:36, and a good evening to you. Glad you've joined us. For instance, on the super text line, by the way, 615-737-9986, 4931 said, I've watched the whole series. It is worth the watch. Very good. I think I'm going to check it out. 2446 said, Kevin Spacey did a great job in the movie Negotiate. He's one of the finest actors around. If you've never seen The Usual Suspects, Kaiser Sose, man. The Usual Suspects is tip top. What else has Spacey been in?
I tell you what he was fantastic in was Horrible Bosses.
Fabulous in Horrible
he was
Bosses.
so good.
I mean, because you have to have him playing that straight.
Yep.
You have to believe he is that much of a horrible human being in order to buy into that movie. Yeah, that's good. It's not for the faint of heart. It's got some language and whatnot. It's R-rated for a reason, but he was great in that. He was great in, it was early on in, he uncredited, I don't want to give anything away. Spoiler alert, 7. You ever see 7?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was great.
Did you notice he was uncredited at the beginning?
I did not notice.
Most don't. If you rewatch it, you will not see his name anyway. He insisted that he not roll in the opening credits because he didn't want anybody to know that it was him.
Because you don't see him until the end of the movie.
Oh my gosh!
Really? Yeah.
That scene.
I mean, I guess you do. You just don't know that you do.
Yeah, you see him. Cuts his fingerprints off. No, it's that scene where they're going back into the station and they've been looking for him, and I mean they can't find him, and it's the deadly sins and who's he going to get next. And I'm not spoiling anything. It's a 30-year-old movie, but you through all of and you haven't seen him and you don't know who he is, you don't know where he is, and there's all of this noise, and you hear way in the background off a camera, detective. And somehow that cuts through the noise, and then all that, and then nobody hears him, and he screams, "Detective! I believe you're looking for me." Oh, creepy.
Good.
Yeah, great movie. Lindsay has been holding for a minute. Hey, Lindsay, how are you out in Pleasant Shade? You doing all right? Uh-oh, Lindsay.
I just got back into Pleasant Shade, thank
Okay.
God.
Well, I'm glad you called. Thank you for holding. How are you?
I'm glad to be back, and I want to tell you about my Purple Toe Christmas. But you just brought up movie endings, and that did Brian Wilson, or did he not, ever tell you about the end of The Thing? Because I called him, and he acted like I had butterflies coming out my ears one time. Because he was on there when it was Halloween. You guys were doing the thing where you meet each other at the last 5-10 minutes of the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about movie. Well, I should have done this I did. I called my FARB on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
He did not know what I was talking about. End of The Thing. You said it didn't work out because they were just sitting around at the fire, remember?
I do.
But that's not true. The wolf runs off. The wolf is the thing.
Are you talking about the remake, the John Carpenter remake with Kurt Russell? Or are you talking about
talking about Kirk Douglas.
Okay, I've never
the
seen
original with Kirk Douglas.
I've never seen the original. I've only seen the remake that happened in the 1980s
and it goes,
with.
Done it.
I've only seen
it.
Okay, one more time. I've only seen the remake that was done with Kurt Russell. Have you seen the remake?
Sorry.
Have you seen the remake, Lindsay?
You usually like my sound effects.
No, it's okay. We have a little bit of a bad connection. We've got a little bit of a back feed going on, and for that reason, I will say goodnight to you, Lindsay. I appreciate that. The Thing, as horror movies go, the one that I saw, if my memory's right, I just remember it was the last two survivors. It was Kurt Russell and the other guy, and they're sitting outside and they're drinking whiskey, and they both think that the other one is the thing, and they're just sitting there waiting on what's going to happen next, and then the movie ends. But I could be wrong.
I've never seen either one, so.
Pretty good movie. It's gory. Pretty gory. 5689 says, sounds like she's been in the eggnog. Well, haven't we all at this point in the proceedings? let's see. 0471, do you have a recommendation? We mentioned the Civil War earlier. Do you have a recommendation for a good, historically accurate Civil War documentary? There are a number of them. Glory's pretty good. Andersonville is incredible. Now, most of these, you're not going to find something that, if you want something historically accurate, you need to go and watch Ken Burns' The Civil War. Okay? Say what you will about Ken Burns. He is the greatest living documentarian, and he does incredible work, and I understand that he lives left of center, and that concerns some people. I do not believe that it has affected his work. Civil War by Ken Burns is where I learned of Shelby Foote, and Shelby Foote is and was, prior to his death, an absolute American institution. But if I had one to recommend, it would be Gettysburg, only because I have visited the battlefields of Gettysburg, and I did a little deep dive onto the Battle of Gettysburg. And let me tell you, the scene in Gettysburg where, and I forget the actor who played him, but it was Pickett. It was Lieutenant General, what was his first name? Pickett, anyway, who did not want to do Pickett. Nobody wanted to do what General Lee wanted him to do in Gettysburg. None of his subordinate generals thought that it was a good idea to attempt to traverse open field to try to take higher ground. And that open field was like over a mile long, and they'd be under cannon fire and all of that. And so General Pickett had no desires Gods and Generals is another good one, had no desire to engage in Pickett's charge, although Pickett's charge has now been called the turning point in the overall war. General Pickett didn't want to do it to begin with. But orders are orders, and General Robert E. Lee was convinced that it was by God's grace that they would win Gettysburg and win the war. That said, the famous line was, after offering his objections to General Lee over the overall battle plan, he was told to mind his business and to do his job. And he did. And if you don't know, Pickett's charge was an absolute disaster, and it decimated, like, just his division was decimated. And this is apparently historically accurate that General Lee, in the aftermath of what was just a destruction of the Confederate Army at Gettysburg, he found General Pickett looking kind of listless and wide-eyed, and he tried to get his attention, said, General Pickett. And Pickett didn't really respond. He said, General. And he finally turned to him and said, Sir, you have to look after your division. And General Pickett said, General Lee, I have no division. Ooh, give me goosebumps just thinking about it. Anyway, I would strongly recommend Gettysburg to anyone who is interested. The Colorado Supreme Court did not put any teeth into their measure because they stayed upon an appeal application. Absolutely. They understood the controversy that they were creating when they stirred up that entire mess. And I assure you that they know, they have to be smart enough to know that they're about to be overturned. I mean, there's no question that they're about to be overturned. All right, before we go, there is a NASA mission to attempt to intercept an asteroid before it reaches Earth's orbit. Don't freak out. Don't freak out yet. Maybe freak out after I read all of this to you, but don't freak out just yet. So the NASA launch of the mission is designed to study Apophis, the asteroid that is set to make a close Earth encounter in April of 2029. Fresh off of its mission to collect samples from an asteroid in deep space, NASA is now set to attempt to study Asphorus, I think I have that right, Asphorus, in an effort to determine how old it is and where it comes from. There is no suggestion, at least as far as they're telling us, there's no suggestion that the asteroid will come close enough to Earth to impact us at all. But do you think they would tell us? I mean, I feel like there are enough amateur astronomers and mathematicians and wannabe scientists out there that we could figure it out on our own. But if the powers that be, and I don't want to freak you out the day after Christmas, but if the powers that be determined that there was an asteroid that was not going to be a near miss, it was going to be a certain hit, and that it was going to affect the planet in some grand way like that, I don't know that they would tell us. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it would be like some of the movies. One way or the other, I have an alligator attack to tell you about, and I have a sad story out of Florida. A 23-year-old mother in Florida. Golly, you hate hearing these stories, and I almost regret even bringing it up. A 23-year-old mother in Florida was killed by her younger brother Sunday during a family dispute over Christmas gifts. Is that awful? It's bad. The argument began as the woman by the name of Abrielle Baldwin and her two sons, ages 6 and 10 months, were shopping Sunday night with their two teenage brothers, aged 15 and 14, and their mother. This, according to Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri. Baldwin's 14-year-old brother was apparently upset that his older brother, a 14-year-old, was upset that his older brother was getting more gifts than him, which sparked an argument. They had a family spat about who was getting what and what money was getting spent on whom. And according to the sheriff's deputy, the family eventually left the store, went to Baldwin's grandmother's house, where the arguing continued. At the residence, the 14-year-old took out a handgun that he had on his person and threatened to shoot his older brother in the head. Family members present at the home tried separating the teens. The younger brother then began arguing with Baldwin and threatened to shoot her and her 10-month-old son. He then allegedly shot her in the chest with a .40 caliber handgun. The baby was in the carrier, was not harmed. When the 15-year-old teen came out of the home, he took his own .45 caliber handgun and shot his brother in the stomach. Older teen ran away from the scene and tossed the gun. The younger teen who allegedly shot Baldwin was hospitalized in stable condition and will be taken into custody when released. I don't understand what gets into the water in some places that causes people to do some of these things. It is sad. We need to get on our knees and pray to God. That's what we need to do and get back to God in this country. It's 48 after the hour on Super Talk.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you until 7 o'clock. We'll hand off to the great one, Mark Levin, or someone subbing in for the great one, Mark Levin. I don't know if Mark's there or not. Do not forget that tonight at 12 midnight, I'll be back on Red Eye Radio and back in for Brian Wilson and The Drive coming up tomorrow. Would love, love, love it if you told a family member or a friend. about us on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Okay, a couple of things. One, this is just great, and you're great for writing it. Josh writes in and says, Matt, I told my 2-year-old, quote, we're very fortunate tonight, buddy. We've got Matt Murphy on until 7 o'clock, so we can listen to him during bath time. And he said, and I quote, oh, thank goodness. Put this down as a big W, sir. Appreciate y'all. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Signed, Josh. I'm going to choose to believe that, oh, thank goodness, was not a 2-year-old learning the art of sarcasm.
If it was, that would be, wow. He's got a bright future ahead of himself.
Be, the old Chandler, oh, thank goodness. What would I do during bath time without Matt Murphy? That's pretty good. That gives me a laugh. For those of you who have been in and around B&A Airport, I wanted to get to this story before we have to say goodbye. Apparently, the city-appointed Metro Nashville Airport Authority Board, they're going after it. They're going after the General Assembly because the General Assembly passed a law last June that gave the Nashville mayor, the Tennessee governor, and the 2 top lawmakers in the Tennessee General Assembly each the opportunity to select 2 members for a new Metro Nashville Airport Authority Board. Well, the city has heretofore appointed that board. That board was elected after the legislation was passed, and that board began operating. So let me make sure I'm setting the scene properly. So up until this past June, the Metro Nashville Airport Authority has been appointed by the city of Nashville. But the Tennessee General Assembly concluded, and I think properly, that B&A Airport, the Nashville International Airport, affects and operates more broadly for our Middle Tennessee community and really all of Tennessee. And the actions taken by the Metro Nashville Airport Authority have a much broader impact than just the city of Nashville. So it makes sense that more people are involved in the appointing authority. So the Tennessee General Assembly passed this law last June that gives the Nashville mayor, Tennessee governor, the, top 2 lawmakers in the General Assembly, so that would be the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor, I would guess. They would have the authority to select 2 members for the board. Our good friend, Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, was selected. The board was selected, began operating, but a ruling by a panel of 3 judges at the Tennessee Chancery Court agreed with the Metro Nashville argument that the law violates the Tennessee Constitution because it only applies to one Tennessee city. What I expect, now this is a little bit of a political football that's being tossed back and forth. What I would expect that the Tennessee General Assembly is going to do, they're not going to back up on this. They will move forward and they will carve out some sort of niche by which this applies more broadly to airports around the state and does not specifically apply to the city of Nashville. But I would expect that because of the way that they manufacture that new bill, it will only ultimately affect the city of Nashville. Kind of in the same way that they did with the city council. They passed this legislation saying, hey, no city council can be over 20 members anymore. And the city of Nashville said, why are you picking on us? Why would you point legislation directed toward us? What are you doing, you meanie tails? And the General Assembly said, hey, man, we said anybody. And the city of Nashville says, yeah, but we're the only city council that has more than 20 members to begin with. And the General Assembly said, you right. Correct. Exactly. Get it fixed. Following the court's decision, the board again became selected by the Nashville mayor and approved by the Metro Nashville Council. That board actually never ceased operation, it's my understanding. They kept meeting, or maybe they stopped meeting a couple of times. Anyway, the Metro-appointed board resumed after the previous board took nearly 20 separate actions to achieve the construction of a second terminal and speed up ongoing road construction by about a year, according to the Nashville Business Journal. In other words, while the first board was out of commission and the newly appointed board was in commission, they made a lot of contractual decisions. They accepted 17 different contracts. They hired a firm to recommend where a second terminal should be put. They gave a 50% pay raise and contract extension for the Airport Authority CEO. The board also voted to advance its move to reduce the time it will take to move Donaldson Pike, which must be relocated before the airport can expand more of its road network. In other words, they're moving along trying to alleviate some of the traffic crunch that exists at the airport that I see on a daily basis. I mean, I drive by the airport on a daily basis, and it's an absolute quag. Well, under the plans ratified by the Metro-appointed board, the outlet reported the airport authority will fund additional work shifts, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, long story short, the city-appointed Metro Nashville Airport Authority has now voted unanimously to ratify the 19 separate actions taken during the tenure of the previous board. So they're moving forward with some of the changes being made by the General Assembly's appointed board based on a law passed in June. Does that make sense to everybody? Ultimately, this amounts to the Metro Nashville Airport Authority agreeing that the General Assembly's appointed board was doing an adequate job during the time that they had the job, and they agreed to agree to everything that had been done during that period of time. Meanwhile, while we're talking about courts, an appeal court, this is a big deal that you've probably not heard about, and I want to share this with you before we say goodnight. If you don't know the name Jeff Fortenberry, he is a former congressman that was convicted by a federal judge and sentenced in Los Angeles to 2 years of probation, a $25,000 fine, and 320 hours of community service after being accused of lying to federal authorities about a campaign contribution that they accused him of receiving in 2016. Prosecutors allege that Fortenberry lied to federal agents multiple times about this campaign donation. It ultimately resulted in a process crime by which he was forced to resign after his conviction. The former Congressman Jeff Fortenberry has now won an appeal wiping out his conviction of lying to the FBI over an illegal campaign contribution. It was determined that he was not tried in the proper venue. This is a step in the right direction. It's a small step, and I don't know anything about the particulars of the case, only to say that it was a process crime. They ultimately accused him of lying to authorities as opposed to doing any criminal act prior to. And he was forced to resign in disgrace as a result. Now that ruling has been overturned. That doesn't mean that he'll get his job back. That doesn't mean that he'll get his reputation back. But it does cut into some of the power and control that the deep state, i.e. the FBI, has over some of our duly elected officials, and I find that to be a good thing. That wraps up my episode 478 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll be back tomorrow at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, filling in for Brian Wilson on The Drive. You're invited to be a part of Red Eye Radio tonight. I'd love to hear from you from midnight until 5 a.m. I'll be there as well. Have a wonderful evening, folks. We got Mark Levin, or a reasonable facsimile thereof, coming up next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Have a great evening, folks. Merry post-Christmas. We'll talk to you tomorrow. So long.